Again, welcome everyone to the Phoenix Report. I am Jack Connor, and this is another of our movie reviews, another of our deep dive. Not necessarily a watch along, but going back into seeing a classic movie, one that I've always appreciated. And this one came by request. It's one that I remember seeing in the theaters when it first came out. School of Rock from 2003, starring the great Jack Black. Yeah, I remember seeing this and not really being sure what to expect. I mean, I was kind of vaguely aware of Jack Black, with Tenacious D and all that, and I thought, like, all right, this guy's okay. But like, I really ended up enjoying this movie, and man, talk about like a movie that was like pitch perfect for an actor. Like this was completely written for him. Like he's
yeah. Literally.
I would argue that he's barely acting in this one. He's sort of being just an amped up version of himself, without the profanity, of course,
right?
Because it's more of a kid friendly movie. But man, when I think about this movie, like it ended up spawning like a Broadway musical. There was a series on Nickelodeon for a while. They never ended up doing any sequels, but I mean, obviously it became a really
it's perfect the way it is, though.
Oh, exactly. Before I get started, now that you hear him right now, I might as well introduce my panel. Right here, also from Orlando, Florida, is my good buddy Gabe Vermund, a great singer and songwriter and musician. Gabe, welcome. This is the first time I've had you on my show.
Yeah, it's cool. It's in my first time podcasting, but it's my first time podcasting with tuyo, which is Spanish for you.
Gracias. All right, so very, very cool. So we're glad to have you. And of course, coming back on my show is one of my oldest friends, Joey Passante, who is now a podcaster in his own right.
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. Yes, you introduced me to everything like involved in podcasting and getting it started, and I have to thank you for that. So.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. I'm glad I could do it. I mean, does that mean I get 20% now? How's that work? We'll just kind of cut it back on a deal.
Yeah,
20% of nothing, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's about right. Yeah, Joey has a great podcast now. Originally, he had the Real Deal vinyl album review, but now he's doing a show with his brother-in-law, Lawrence, called I Guess This Is Growing Up, talking about their childhood and teenage years. It's really cool and talks about all the stuff they still enjoy now. So.
Yeah, just cool. I'm gonna promote myself for 1 second. But this upcoming podcast we're going to be talking about San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah, that's right. I had heard that listening to some of your episodes, I heard that you and your wife Amber and Lawrence ended up going out to San Diego Comic-Con, which is really cool. That's like the mecca of Comic-Cons. So that
was one of the craziest experiences of my life.
That's super cool.
Going to LA and then going to San Diego, because LA was completely crazy.
No doubt. I've never been there, so that must have been really cool.
You think?
Well, I mean,
LA.
In some places, I'm sure, maybe more than others.
Exactly. I think the whole thing of smoke and mirrors is definitely prevalent there.
Fair enough.
San Diego, beautiful. San Diego, absolutely beautiful. But anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys have some great stories with that. But yeah, let's talk about School of Rock for a little bit. Gabe, you were the one who suggested that. I mean, when I was going around looking for ideas, you came to me as like, hey, why don't you do School of Rock? And I'm like, why don't you be on it if we're going to do it? So,
exactly.
Yeah, did either of you guys see this when it came out in the theaters?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was in a band called Skit way back when. You can actually listen to some of that music if you look up Gabe Vermund on iTunes. Some of the songs that we recorded way back in like 2006 is on there. That's so there was that, and of course we all saw it as a band because it's freaking Tenacious D and classic rock. I mean, it's hard to.
Yeah. I was a freshman in college when it came out, and I remember taking a bunch of friends and my girlfriend at the time to see it, and it was a lot of fun. I felt like man. Stuff about classic rock, like I could teach this class. I felt like.
Yeah, definitely. I'm positive I saw it in the movie theater. I'm just trying to remember who I saw with. Like you said, I was in college at the time, so it's probably with one of my friends from college. But I definitely distinctly remember because I was a Jack Black fan as well. Obviously, like you said before, Tenacious D, and just he's just a great comedic actor. So
Yeah, Jack Black is one of those guys where it's like, it's kind of like Adam Sandler. Like, you either like love him or he gets on your nerves. And
Right.
sometimes there's a little bit of both, in
Mm-hmm.
between, because he's kind of the same guy every movie most of the time. Now, granted, he's done some serious roles too. Like he was in King Kong in 2006.
Yep. Cable
And,
Guy.
oh, was Jack Black in Cable Guy?
Yeah, he played the producer friend of Matthew Broderick.
I didn't know that. I've never seen that movie, so I would need to go see it.
That was a long time ago on that one as well.
But yeah. I mean, but he's a talented guy, great singer, obviously, and so but yeah.
Really quick. What was the movie that was Saving Silverman?
Yes.
Was that, and they're all like Neil Diamond fans.
Yes, Diamonds in the Rough, man. Oh, I love that movie.
Anyway,
so ridiculous.
That was a good one.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the thing with Jack Black as well, between like all of this being a musician and everything, he's very good at physical comedy as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's definitely reminds me of John Belushi a lot, where he just gives all into everything he goes for, and sort of the way like Farley was as well.
Mm-hmm. Also, do you ever see I Still Know What You Did Last Summer?
No, that would be the sequel to I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah, he played the Jamaican guy in that movie.
Jack Black played a Jamaican guy?
Yes.
Hey, there are white Jamaicans out there.
Absolutely.
Whitewashing before it was cool. Actually, it's always been kind of cool, but not cool. But,
has it? No, I went to college. There was a white guy who was from Jamaica, and he had the accent. But I mean, he was from Jamaica, so it makes sense. But yeah, this came out in 2003. It was directed by Richard Linklater, who he did Dazed and Confused and Everybody Wants Some, and so he wasn't necessarily. I mean, was Dazed and Confused wasn't really a comedy movie. It was more of like a coming of age, but had some comedic stuff in there.
Yeah. And
it was written by a guy named Mike White. Now, Mike White and Jack Black, weird. They both have color last names.
Yeah.
Mike White is a writer and actor. He and Jack Black originally worked together in a movie called Orange County.
Yes, great movie.
Which came out the year before, which was a really funny movie. Yeah, really funny movie as well.
I forgot about that movie.
Yeah, with Colin Hanks and John Lithgow
and Colin Hanks. He did a documentary on the ending of Tower Records.
He did. Yeah, that was great.
It was good. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's another connection. I mean, Jack Black, he was in High Fidelity with Joan Cusack, and
Mike White in this movie, he plays the roommate.
Yeah. Mike White plays. He wrote the script specifically for Jack.
Yeah.
And he played, and he's a musician as well. Co-wrote the songs.
What was it, like death metal or goth band or whatever it was?
Yeah. And we could get into that, in the movie. But there's a really funny picture they took, and the director Richard Linklater played, was the third guy in that picture.
Interesting.
So, yeah, a little piece of trivia for you there. But let's see, it came out in theaters on October 3rd, 2003. It was I think it was distributed by Paramount. I don't know if see, who was the production? It was like independently produced, Scott Rudin Productions. I'm not really sure with Scott Rudin, some of his credits or whatever, but it's but yeah, it was one of those. This was clearly a starring vehicle for Jack Black, and
absolutely.
And it was perfect for it. Like it's just it just made sense, and it was also probably one of the first like sort of kid friendly movies he did, even though it wasn't necessarily a kids movie. Like I think. I'm trying to remember.
It's PG-13.
Was it PG-13? Yeah, I was just going to ask about that. Like, I think there might have been like a little bit of cursing in there, but like not a little bit.
There were some mature themes, but barely any.
It's
Paramount Pictures distributed it.
Yeah, it's definitely something you could watch with like. I mean, Joey, your oldest daughter is probably around.
I watched it with Cece today.
Yeah, how old is Cece now? She's 5 or 6. Oh my god.
She's 5, so she didn't really. All that stuff went over her head, but the most important thing was, and we can get into it later, was the end scene, like
with the concert and seeing the kids and.
But she was kind of like, "Can I do that?"
Yeah.
I just bought you a guitar for Christmas. So
and like seeing
let's get at it.
Seeing these kids play and like, oh, who's this guy? Their teacher, he's so silly, and it works.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, what we're gonna do is not necessarily a strict watch along, but I know it's streaming on HBO Max. So however you're watching this, whether it's streaming or if you have the DVD or Blu-ray or whatever it is, you can follow along, and we're just gonna go through it scene by scene and just describe what's happening in the movie and let you know what we think. So spoiler alert, I mean the movie's almost 20 years old at this point, but I'll throw a spoiler alert in there anyway. Yeah, one thing I noticed about I know it was filmed in Staten Island, New York. A lot of the exterior shots of the school was like, I forget what the name of the college was where they filmed it at, and the scenes where they shot in the theater in the club was in New Jersey, probably like in Newark somewhere. Sorry, I'm going through the Wikipedia page now, and the school that they used for the exteriors was the main hall at Wagner College in Staten Island.
Nice.
Okay, cool.
And one of the theaters they used in the shots was at the Union County Performing Arts Center in Rahway, New Jersey.
Cool.
Where is that at? I'm sure it's within proximity to
the
city.
It's in Union County, New Jersey. I was trying to think if it was close to where you are, Joey, but no, it's in North Jersey. It's outside of
Manhattan. I was going to say it's probably more north, right towards.
And Joey, you're in Pennsylvania, is that right?
Yep, I'm about 50 minutes outside of Philly.
Nice.
About 5 minutes from Delaware.
What I love about Delaware is basically Pennsylvania, but
yeah.
It's like it's a traffic stop between Pennsylvania and Rhode Island, I think.
Yeah, Delaware, they want to act like they're their own thing, but they're not.
No, they're not. They're tax haven for corporations.
Oh no, you tell some Pennsylvanians, they'll be like, Delaware, you can stay down in Delaware.
They're tax haven for DuPont. That's about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Ooh, inside news. All right.
Yes.
So, anyways, let's get into it. The movie opens with the Paramount logo and just this badass riff, which is the song "Fight." And it's for it was written for the movie for the fictional band No Vacancy, which is, as we learn, is Dewey's band, in the beginning of the movie. The opening credits are really creatively done. It kind of reminds me of the opening for Napoleon Dynamite, where you have the captions on like actual objects as opposed to like graphics inserted in post. And it's like this long continuous shot as well. Really clever how they did that. Or at least it looked like it was in one shot. And one of the things I wrote down, I thought it was curious to hear a song like this in 2003, because it definitely had like a sort of 70s, 80s vibe to it, which I love, and I know you guys love that. But I try to think, I'm like, I wonder if this would have been in fashion in 2003, because I think like by this time grunge had sort of already came and went.
We're in the post-grunge era at this point. I think like Breaking Benjamin had just come out.
Yeah,
and the Polyamorous, and 3 Days Grace had come out with I Hate Everything About You. So this is sort of I really wouldn't say
it was slowly coming back.
Vacancy was grunge. Like they're kind of like battle metal before it was cool almost.
A little bit, yeah. But I mean, and so because I know that there was still definitely an appetite for this sort of hard rock, even if it wasn't incredibly mainstream, which unfortunately that's still the case in my opinion. Right. But that's another conversation for another time. But we do a close up on the band, and clearly, like Dewey is the most animated out of the bunch.
Yeah.
And the rest of the band seems to be like tolerated. The rest of the band is kind of annoyed by like some of the over the top antics on stage. And there's a shot of this one guy texting someone's. I don't know who he's texting, but he says like, "Oh, this band sucks."
Yeah, sucks.
But the people that are there seem to be digging it. Like like they're not getting a totally cold reception,
This happens more towards the end of the movie, but this is sort of the ongoing theme of how rock and roll kind of becomes more of an image thing rather than a music thing, because the music sounds great and they're perfectly together and everything, but then guys like they suck, and it's probably because of Jack Black's antics that he's saying that.
Maybe he just didn't care for that and for that sort of thing. I mean, I don't know. People get weird. It's such a thin line to walk. I remember like early in early bands that I've played with, I'd like I would love to perform on stage and really like get into it and get the crowd involved. And some of the other guys in the band were like, Jack, why don't you tone it down a little bit? not to the extent of Dewey Finn, but it's a thin line to walk, especially if you're in a band juggling those personalities and that sort of thing. But
But really quick, I want to go. I'm looking at my notes. I just want to talk about. I just want to elaborate on that song at the beginning, because literally, I really thought it was Jack Black singing at first. And like you said, that movie is tailored to Jack Black, and I was like, this sounds exactly how Jack Black would probably sing this song.
Yeah, but it wasn't him singing lead on the track.
No.
Nope, it was Roger from Rent.
Yeah, Adam Pascal.
Adam Pascal.
Yeah.
Brilliant voice. I absolutely, like, when this is a little bit of tangent, but when I saw Rent, I heard his voice, I'm like, I love you, man.
Yeah, the guy's a great singer.
Sorry, I know this.
No, Joey, we've been talking over you like crazy.
No, it's fine. No, I'm just, like I said, I'm looking at my notes with it, and I was definitely aware that it wasn't Jack Black singing, but I was like, I pictured it in my head as the song was playing. I'm like, wow, this movie really is for Jack Black. Like, it really is, even down to the songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Black does sing the backup, in the chorus. He's singing the harmony. And Jack Black, like, I've never heard him miss a note. Like, he's amazing.
Yeah, he's fantastic, and so is Adam Pascal. Obviously, good-looking dude. He looks like a rock star and has a great rock voice, even though he's mainly a Broadway guy. From what I understand, like he's done some recordings and like some rock stuff, but like if he hasn't done, he should do more of that.
That's why he started out. Like he got his audition for Rent. He was in a band, and he came. Like, he read about an audition, or someone told him about an audition, so he came in and sang one of his original songs, and the casting people at Rent said, this guy's the perfect fit for this character.
There you go. He had a whole other career out of it, so there you go. Good on him. But people seem to be digging it at the club. I mean, look, I've seen a lot worse receptions for being in bands at a club, so it's it's not like people are hating on him, but and at one point, I mean, Dewey, I guess, I'm assuming he's drunk by this point because he's like ripping off his shirt, and he attempts the stage dive only to face plant and presumably pass out and or stop the show right in its tracks.
Yep. Yeah, it's a big guy, 5 people. That's not a stage dive that you're gonna walk away from.
I mean, I myself have never attempted a stage dive.
I hate stage divers. They make me so mad.
I mean, I've rarely played into a crowd big enough where I could possibly pull that off, but I've never wanted to take the chance.
Yeah. Well, what I've never liked about stage diving and crowd surfing is that, like, you're having fun at everyone else's expense. You're expecting me who can barely lift an iPod to.
It's very presumptuous.
Yes, to lift 200 pounds, no matter how skinny the person is. No matter how hot the guy or the girl is. Right. I still have to lift, and I can't lift much more than 40 pounds on that.
Then you're forced
above my head.
To push up people, sweaty people that you.
Yeah, I mean, ideally there's some weight distribution, but yeah.
I think you have to be in the right. It has to be in the right scene, the right mood, the right situation for it to happen.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I missed Alice Cooper's. Like, I've hated it ever since I missed Alice Cooper's beheading at a concert because someone, like, they were. And I could have broken my neck, and then I looked behind right when he was doing that part.
Yeah, so yeah.
I hate that too. I hate that too because there's that. If you don't watch out, it's that sense of danger that you have to be on your guard when people do that. So it sucks. I've never done it. I don't ever intend to do it. So
right.
Yep.
Right. So the next morning, Dewey is still asleep in his apartment as his roommate Ned, played by Mike White, his roommate Ned Schneebly is arguing with his girlfriend Patty, played by Sarah Silverman,
who plays the most opposite character of who she actually is.
Right.
I'm like, do you even want to call that a room? He literally had like some tapestry like strung up around his bed.
Yeah, like what is the story with that apartment? Like he doesn't. I guess it's a little one room, or I don't know if it's a studio at that point, but like he has his own little corner that he's in.
It's a bit big for a studio, but.
Yeah, in college I had a 1-bedroom that we shared. So one semester, like my one roommate, he had the room, and then we switched it. So we had like something like that, but it's like. I'm like, Ned, you're paying this? You're having to say, like, dude, you're paying this to Ned? Like, come on, Ned.
Yeah. So, but apparently Dewey has been living rent-free with Ned for a certain amount of time and has been basically taking advantage of his friend's kindness. He's mooching off him, from what we understand, for years. This has been happening.
He literally says it.
Yeah, he does actually say. So Patty is clearly sick of it, although they make it obvious that she's very overbearing, very type A as well. So, I mean, there's going to be a huge personality clash there. But clearly, like, there's like a codependent situation, you know, with Ned, because he's very submissive. This guy just has no spine. He just, just doesn't stand up for himself when it comes to his friends or his girlfriend. Very submissive guy. But yeah,
there's another theme in the movie. It's about
standing up for yourself
and what Dewey kind of teaches the kids and therefore the audience.
And I just have to say, how dare Ned to ask Dewey to sell one of his guitars? How dare
Right, that's a cardinal sin.
Well, to be fair to Ned, it was a suggestion.
Yeah,
true. I think everything with Ned was a suggestion.
Yeah, Ned was not calling the shots. Let's be honest of anything here. So Ned and Patty point out that Ned sort of meekly asks for his share of the rent, but Dewey doesn't have it. Dewey hasn't worked for a while. He's been focusing on the band. Not sure how old Dewey's supposed to be at this point. I'm guessing like mid-30s, probably around our age now. Yeah, but
probably the same age as Jack Black at the time.
Yeah, Jack would have been early 30s maybe at the time.
Yeah, right.
I'm doing the math in my head, but yeah, so Dewey doesn't have the money, and Ned and Patty point out that Dewey owes Ned $2,200 and has no job. So Ned and Dewey are both pretty pathetic at this point, and it's funny. I know it's played that they play Patty's character as like being very overbearing and bossy, but like, not for nothing, I kind of see where she's coming from.
I agree with you too. Like, she's like,
she has a point.
Yeah, like exactly. She's not wrong.
I mean, to be fairly honest on her side, like, Dewey's a jerk. Like, he's selfish. He's just doing whatever he wants. So.
Oh yeah, and that's a theme we see throughout the movie. Like, he kind of finds a way to grow up. I mean, in his own way. But like, at the beginning, like, yeah, he's pretty selfish. He can be very mean sometimes. So later in the day at No Vacancies practice loft, Dewey walks in only to hear the band practice with Spider, his replacement.
Spider.
So,
I put that down on my notes. What a great name.
Great rock name. Like, and so clearly this had been building in the band for a while now. A terrible way for him to find out. You think they could have a meeting with him beforehand. But the band is clearly fed up with him and just fires him right on the spot.
But just in the way too, like, how Ned is kind of like submissive with some things. Was it the bass player or?
Yeah, the bass player.
That's like.
I didn't even want to do it. They said.
Yeah.
You're full of it.
Honestly, Joey, that bass player, in a lot of ways, in some of the scenes, he reminds me a little bit of our buddy Steven.
I see that. I see that
just in the way he looks and the way he talks.
Yeah,
not like his personality, obviously, but
no, I kind of thought that as well too. So.
That's a little inside baseball with me and Joey, but yeah. So but Dewey's like, even before he finds out that he's being fired, he's like kind of not nonchalantly insulting them. He's like, Theo, don't take this the wrong way, but your lyrics are lame. This is before he even finds out that he's fired.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, he kind of goes off on them once, he does that whole spiel, once he finds out he's fired, he's pissed off at them. But like, it's almost hard to like take him seriously in that situation because he's so goofy in what's like supposed to be sort of the serious scene.
Well, yeah, he kicks a cymbal.
Yeah.
Do a Bruce Lee kick on the cymbal.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't going for the cymbal, but like, why do a jump kick in the middle of like a serious walk-off?
Because it's Jack Black. That's exactly.
Jack freaking Black. Yeah.
Like, he does a jumping front kick to emphasize his point. Like, who does that?
He does many.
Well, I do.
Like, jumping front kicks.
Well, yeah, I mean, you do, Dave, sometimes, but I mean, most people.
I'm not most people.
No, but that's why we love you. So
Yes,
later that day in the apartment, Dewey is trying to sell one of his guitars when he gets a message for Ned from Rosalie Mullins, or Roz.
Rosalie Mullins.
Yeah, Rosalie, or Roz as he calls her later on, who's the principal of Horace Green Preparatory School, who says that they need a substitute teacher right away, which they established earlier that Ned is a teacher, and I guess like he's a sub. He's relatively new.
Dewey busts his balls all the time, just calling him a temp.
Yeah.
Right. Now, Joey, weren't you originally going to be a teacher when you were in college?
Yeah.
I know you went into a different line of work, but.
No, I'm still in education, but I'm more of like on the administrative side of education.
Gotcha.
But I was a substitute.
You're Principal Mullins, in other words.
My wife is Principal Mullins, if anything.
Yeah.
My wife is a teacher as well, so it's like I'm kind of appreciating it as an adult from from this whole other
angle. As a substitute
angle.
teacher, it's terrible as being a substitute teacher, because you're at the
waiting
call of getting a job, and then when you're in there, the kids can be tough.
Oh yeah.
And, your wife can attest to that too, even though she's elementary.
Yeah, she teaches kindergarten now. She's taught first grade and fourth grade before that. So
yeah, when you're substituting high schoolers that are like taller than you, or bigger than you, it's a little crazy.
I'll be honest, most people are taller than my wife. So, but that's beside the point. But So when he listens to Roz's voicemail, he ends up picking up the phone and pretends to be Ned, or at least he doesn't pretend to be Ned right away, but he's like asking a few questions. Yeah. He finds out that it's an opportunity to make some money, about $650 a week. Not too bad for a substitute teacher job.
No, but at this point, all of my educational red flags come up.
Yeah,
right.
So where's his background check?
Do
they not have a photo ID of Ned?
Right.
Like what is going on?
Because apparently Ned's in the system.
School.
Right. That's how they know about him, is that he's in the system, and somehow he doesn't have a photo ID. I mean, this is 2003, so we're not as technologically advanced back then. But I mean, photo IDs.
Well, to be fair, if he's been subbing for a while, he probably has had a background check before. Mm-hmm. He might not have worked at this school, but he has been subbing, so maybe they're just going off the recommendations.
You're right. He did have he had a well-known reputation. That's why they called him in the first place. So I understand that, but I get that's just my educational side, because that's what I do.
For sure.
I work for special ed, and I credential contractors and stuff. So I'm always constantly looking at that. So that's where, like I said, my red flags come up. I'm like, where did they drop the ball on this?
This is the first of many red flags that we're going to get into as this movie goes on.
I literally have a section in my notes that say red flags ?
Oh yeah.
And I have the Reddit forum of what laws are broken in School of Rock.
I'm sure there are quite a few.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's quite a rap sheet. But once Dewey finds out that the job pays $650 a week, then he gets the idea to pretend to be Ned and takes the job. So we cut to
Can I say right before, though, I love how Jack Black
this is Ned Schneebly.
Get him.
Ned, phone.
I thought that was great.
Ned, phone. Hello, this is Ned. And then he doesn't change his voice later.
No. It's clearly a take where he was improving, and they were like, let's keep it. Let's move on.
Right.
So we cut to a scene where Dewey is driving his beat-up van to the school. Again, a great beat-up rocker van.
Exactly.
Of course he would have that.
Utilitarian, very useful van for someone who's in a band. That's exactly what you need.
Yeah.
Speaking of red flags for.
Yeah, no one has questions about the van as he's driving up to the school, but that's beside the point.
I didn't even think of that. That totally makes.
They're like, why is Ned Schneebly driving this van? That's an odd choice, but okay. And the song that's playing is "Stay Free" by The Clash. Mm-hmm. So I gotta say, when Dewey shows up in the school, he cleans up pretty well. He's clean shaven, and he has a big beard in the beginning of the movie, but he shaves, and he has this nice suit and everything. So, but there's sort of an awkward exchange at first when we meet Dewey and Roz, played by Joan Cusack.
Mm.
Yeah, that was quite awkward for me.
Yeah,
once again, red flag. As a principal who's an administrator, what's going through? Are you that desperate for a teacher?
Exactly. There's this awkward exchange with Roz at first, and where he tries to get paid up front, and then tries to see if he can get out a little early. Then Roz sternly reminds him that this is a very prestigious school and they have a very high standard for both students and faculty. And Dewey has this funny line about smacking the kids in the head if they get out of line. Again, the first of many red flags.
We don't endorse corporal punishment here.
By this time, no one does that pretty much anywhere. Yeah. So, but again, like you said, they must have been really desperate to get a teacher in there.
What happened with the teacher? Did she break her leg, or what did she say that happened?
Yes. They said that the original teacher there broke her leg. I think there was going to be a scene that they filmed that they were going to film for it, but they just decided not to because they just felt it would be too mean-spirited to play that for laughs. Understandable. So in the classroom, Roz introduces Dewey to the kids. And there's this great bit where he clearly can't spell Schneebly, Ned's last name.
That's right. Right in three E's.
Perfect. Yeah. So he just has the kids call him Mr. S. And as soon as Roz leaves, Dewey completely just doesn't even try.
Yeah.
So he just
who has food here?
Yeah, just ask the kids if they have any.
Another red flag for the students. Yeah. He's threatening these kids for food. He goes, "Who's got food?"
Yeah, he's taking food from these children, which is crazy. Because he has not yet had lunch, as we learn. And then then we meet Tamika, one of the girls in the back of the classroom. She sort of shyly raises her hand and shares a turkey sub that she was keeping in her desk. And she had a whole array of snacks in her desk, which was pretty impressive.
I probably would have had something like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're able to keep your stash there, why not?
And if you're from Philly, you might have called it a hoagie.
Oh yeah, some hoagies and some soft pretzels, hon.
But
get some water ice as well. All right, so
then he goes, teach. Okay, I got a hangover.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what that means?
We're gonna get into that.
This is a great exchange.
Yeah, between him and Freddie Jones.
Yep.
About the hangover bit. And then Dewey eventually just tells the kids they can do whatever they want and they don't have to work, which some of the kids are jazzed about it. But then we meet Summer, who's
Miranda Cosgrove, aka iCarly.
Right. Mm-hmm. This is one of her first big roles.
It's her first big role. Yeah.
Before iCarly, and she ended up having a really good run on that show. But and she was actually one of the youngest of the kid actors, which is it makes sense because she was so tiny compared to a lot of the other kids. Summer is the classic teacher's pet archetype, very studious girl, and and she explains the performance chart, and Dewey is just disgusted with the performance chart with all the gold stars and demerits.
Once he learns what a demerit is, he kind of goes off the rails a little bit.
Which you would think, I imagine when he was in school, he probably would have had a lot of demerits, in the guessing the kind of student he might have been. But
another red flag for the students when the teacher is
when your teacher starts ripping up papers.
A sub.
Yes, a substitute, mind you.
A sub.
It's not even their classroom. When you're a young kid, that's got to be a little bit of a scary, to see him doing random freakouts. So he rips it up, and he basically gives them unlimited recess, no grades, etc., as you'd expect. Clearly, he's not taking it seriously. So, meanwhile, we cut to the principal's office where Roz is disciplining this terrified little girl, Emily, and it's a funny scene, and this little girl she's so cute. It's adorable, but she acts.
I was what's the principal going to do to her? She looks so terrified.
She has the fear of God into this child.
Yeah.
But
she got to do, man.
They're establishing that Roz is this typical straight-laced, very high-strung, uptight principal. They really they want to exaggerate that a bit to play for laughs and
to play against Jack Black as well.
Yeah, it's a perfect foil for Jack Black. So it works fine. So at 3 p.m. sharp, Dewey immediately he leaves the class without dismissing the kids.
Out.
Doesn't it? Yeah, I love the "I'll see you cats on flip flop later," which was a great line.
Yep.
It's pretty funny how he just runs out there as fast as possible, like leaps over the chain link fence. Very, very, like you said, very physical comedy is what Jack Black is good at. But
goes past the car. I forget what he said. He said something about there was a car like right there or something, and it's like I forget what he said. It's like thanks for stopping.
Yeah, probably some sort of throwaway line that he added there.
Some throwaway line, but I thought it was funny.
But later, I guess later that afternoon, we see Dewey's flyer, which is like hand drawn in this like perfect self portrait.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who drew this thing, but like I guess are we to assume that Dewey drew that of himself? Because if so, like that would be amazing.
Either that, or he must have like taken a picture and created it. I mean, this is before Photoshop, so.
I mean,
yeah,
Dewey,
like the filters they had back then.
If that's the case, it could have been a good artist maybe instead of musician.
Maybe Dewey is like a very good, very talented artist that we don't see for the rest of it, but has this hidden talent. So it's kind of a sad scene though, because as Dewey overhears these two other guys sort of laughing at his flyer, making fun of it, and just saying that he sucks, and so yeah, I mean that's kind of a sad scene that he like overhears that, and you could tell he's pretty hurt about it, as you would be.
And you can sympathize with him.
It definitely makes him a more sympathetic character at this point.
Even like through like in the beginning of the movie, that's why I'm like those guys were like he sucks. I was like, he doesn't suck. He's just
Yeah. I mean, his guitar solo sucks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I was like, the guitar solo is really great. I just think maybe it's that showmanship of him doing, as they said, 20-minute solos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was just he was just being so extra and just all over the place.
Maybe they thought of him as like more of a joke, I guess. I wouldn't say suck, but I could see them seeing him as kind of more of a joke.
Like, this guy's a clown. They don't take him seriously. Yeah, so I mean that all tracks. But back at the apartment, Ned and Patty are having dinner when Dewey begs Ned to be in a new band with him. He wants to start up a new project. He really wants to get back into it ever since he got fired from No Vacancy. So he shows Ned like an old picture of their earlier goth band, Maggot Death. Featuring both of them in this over the top like gothic clothes, along with Richard Linklater as the third guy. I'm assuming he was their drummer, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, because I think Ned played. He said Jack Black said something about him playing bass.
Yeah, so they would have been a trio. So Dewey so when they ask like, no, I can't do that. Look, I'm focusing on my job right now, and Dewey informs Ned and Patty that he has a job now. He's temping, but he still wants to put a band together. So Patty immediately just starts clowning Dewey and says that no one would be delusional enough to be in a band with him. Again, really hurtful. That's not very nice to say. I mean, I get it, but they don't get along. But
sorry, Sarah Silverman, who is the assistant to the mayor.
Yes.
Your big job. But there's one, I don't know the exact quote, but I think Ned said something on the lines like, my days
as a satanic sex god are over.
Yeah, I like that quote. I like that.
Great.
Yeah, I'm working stiff
stuff.
now, and I couldn't be happy.
Yeah.
Ned suggests that Dewey should give up on his dreams like he did, even though he's clearly not happy. He's trying to convince himself that he is.
Yeah.
And by the way, in the background, we hear a cover of "Do You Remember Rock and Roll Radio," the Ramones song, but performed by Kiss, which is a really good cover version of that song. It was off of this Ramones tribute album at the time. I think called "The Song Ramones the Same" was the name of that Ramones tribute album. Great stuff. But yeah, that was a great cover of that song, and Kiss did it. So good little tribute there. But I mean, I'm watching this scene thinking, I'm like, you know what? There is a middle ground to be had. I've done it for years. Like, I've had a day job for years. I have a family and this and that, but I still play in bands and stuff.
Exactly.
So
do most musicians.
It's not impossible to have that middle ground. Like, it doesn't have to be all or nothing.
Yeah.
But the next,
all three of us have been in that. Probably been in that situation,
exactly.
So.
Exactly.
I'm trying to get in a new band now, but yeah, it's exactly what we do.
Yeah.
It's good,
just it's nothing wrong with that.
Somehow.
Exactly. So the next day, Dewey is practically sleeping in class while the kids just kind of sit there. Some of them are growing impatient.
Right.
I mean, clearly a lot of these kids are very well behaved and they want to learn, especially Summer. Now we kind of go back to Freddie, who's like sort of the bad boy of the class, even though he doesn't seem like that bad of a kid. He's probably just very hyper and you know.
A little bit of a chip on his shoulder, I think, is how I would describe him.
A little bit. You know, he doesn't seem like a bully or anything, though. I mean, from what I can tell. But Freddie, there's this like, what do you guys like to do? He's like, I don't know,
burn stuff.
Again, doesn't seem like a bad kid necessarily, but
No, I don't think any of those kids really came off as like being that, in even Summer, like being that, you know, the squeaky clean, like teacher's pet, you know, kind of, because people have portrayed that kind of character in more negative ways. And I didn't feel annoyed with her character.
No. Which is, it's definitely tough for like a child actor to kind of like, you know, sometimes it's easy to be like annoyed by like a kid actor, and I mean not that it's their intention, but you know it can be difficult when you're dealing with kids that young. But the kids in this movie, even though not all of them were like professional actors, did really good, I think.
Oh yeah.
So Dewey then goes on this whole self-pitying rant about the man, and the line about MTV was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But even like funnier because like you know like MTV is like owned by Paramount.
Right.
So it's like it's kind of a funny little dig. It's like I'm surprised that ended up getting in the movie. But yeah. I mean I'm assuming they have a sense of humor about it. But Roz interrupts as the kids go off to their music lesson. So we cut to, you know, while he's in the bathroom, Dewey overhears some like this beautiful classical music that it really catches his attention right away. He then sort of sneaks out and kind of goes over to the music room and kind of peeks in, and we see the kids in his class performing in like an orchestra setup. And so in particular, he notices Lawrence on piano.
Larry.
Zach on classical guitar. Freddie on percussion, and Katie on cello. He eyes those five in particular. So, I mean, Lawrence and Zach are the two of them are very like standout players, especially for their age. It's obvious right away. So Dewey then rushes to his van and grabs several instruments, which is I love the fact that he owns enough gear for an entire band and carries it with him at all times.
That's one of my notes as well. Like, let's talk about that van for a second, because
I mean, it's obviously where his money goes.
Yeah, he literally has everything on there. He has like 4 guitars or 2 guitars, a couple basses with hangers, like right on the back door of the van. Got a whole drum set, keyboards. I'm like, wow, and they're good guitars. I'm like, you're gonna keep your Gibson in the back of your crap van?
Yeah, again, not good for the guitars, by the way.
No, that's terrible for them.
Right, not good for the instruments. But
especially Gibsons.
And somehow he manages to sneak all that gear into the classroom.
Yes.
But I love how "Sunshine of Your Love" by Cream is playing in the background. Great track. Yeah, I tried to look up like all the different songs in the soundtrack that were throughout this movie, which was great, by the way, how they did it. But when the kids come back into the room, they're shocked to see all of Dewey's instrument out there and set up. And so Dewey quickly singles out Zach and puts an electric guitar in his hands. And so we kind of get a little bit of a background on Zach's character at this point. He wants to play electric guitar, and like, you're not sure how much rock music he's heard, but he really wants to do it, but his dad won't let him.
It's like, come on, Dad. Like, really? You're just going to have him play classical guitar, which in itself is, I mean, if you can play classical guitar, that's awesome.
Yeah, you can play anything if you can play classical guitar.
It's like, come on, Dad. Like, really?
I mean, it's definitely a tough like pull in 2003 to find like parents that are that. It's like, because like his dad isn't that old. Like he would have. But maybe
you expect it more in the 50s, but
they were rocking out.
2003.
They were rocking out at the end of the movie, but we'll go there. But like, really, like, Dad, you don't have anything. You have no classic rock or anything.
He's just a very overprotective dad, I guess.
I guess.
So, but yeah, he wants to play guitar, but his dad won't let him. So Dewey shows Zach how to play Iron Man, Smoke on the Water, and Highway to Hell. Just like three. I mean, talk about like if there's a classic rock songbook, those songs would be in it. Just classic
Easily,
riffs that everybody learns on guitar for the first time. Because they're just all-time classics.
Yeah.
And Zach nails them perfectly. The funny thing about filming that scene is like they tried to get Joey, the kid who played Zach. Obviously, he knew all those songs. They're like, try to play it like you don't know how to play it, and that was tough for him.
Yeah, I thought that too. As I was watching, I was like, you're telling him to play a chord that he knows probably how to play. Same with the bass player.
Oh yeah.
As well. What's her name in the
Katie.
Sorry.
Katie. Isn't it? Yeah.
I'm like, well, you know how to work around a fretboard, so I mean, I think you'll be all right.
But well, I think it's more of a case of them not knowing the songs.
Yeah. No. Yeah. But at the same time, he's like, this is a G.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
If
Like
you're that
she knows.
talented, you know what a G is.
Right.
He's like, Katie, give me a G.
Yeah.
That's all he needs to say.
G.
Mm-hmm.
Chickadee.
But of course Zach nails them perfectly. And look, to his credit, he tried to make it sound like he's just playing them for the first time and just plunking through it. But even though, like the kid, he knew those songs inside and out.
Yeah, even though too, like Smoke on the Water, like it didn't. It sounded like it, but those were not the chords to Smoke on the Water. It kind of was, but it's like obviously like a different key or something. But
yeah,
close enough.
But
close enough to recognize it.
Exactly. Right. So Dewey then has Lawrence step up to play keyboards, and he gives Lawrence the sheet music for "Touch Me" by the Doors. Great song. And Lawrence just nails the intro immediately. Which is like, I mean, definitely that character was, and the boy who played him, he was exactly, that's like who he was in real life. He was a classical music kid. He never really heard much of like rock music, but he was just this, he was just this boy who could, very good classical player. He could see a chart and just play it right away. So.
Yeah, and it brings us to my favorite line in the whole movie. It's like, "Come on, touch me, babe. La da da da. Can't you see that I am not afraid?"
Exactly.
Lawrence is good at piano. He shall be rocking in my show.
But the great thing about that kid, Robert, I listening to like the behind the scenes stuff is like it was tough. It was tough for him not to laugh at the stuff Jack was doing on scene. So it was very tough for him to like keep a straight face throughout it, which I'm sure it must have been for a lot of the kids.
Oh yeah.
So Dewey then calls Katie to the front and puts a bass in her hands, seeing that she can play cello. And then he asks for some drummers, and then Freddie says like, "I play percussion. Let me try it out." And so when he sits down, he does sort of a basic snare and tom roll before a cymbal crash, and clearly this kid has the right energy. Like, he's got a lot of spunk.
Yeah.
So it fits perfectly. And then they all jam on Smoke on the Water as Dewey like solos. I don't know if this is really Jack Black playing.
It is actually
playing this part. Yeah, because even as Jack Black says in interviews, like he's not that much of a lead guitarist or like much of a player, but like he can get around it. But obviously the voice is really where he really shines.
Yep.
Yeah, so. That's why Kyle Gass is I would say lead guitarist of today.
Oh yeah, easily.
So the other kids are naturally just very confused as to what is going on here, like what's happening. And then Dewey explains his idea for a class project called Rock Band. He completely fabricates this whole story about the school being behind this and that other schools are competing and that winning the competition will have a positive impact on their grades and scholarship opportunities.
And literally it's just his selfish want to be the Battle of the Bands.
Yeah, but I mean, he convinces these kids that even though the school knows about it, that they still have to keep it a secret. But I mean, they go with it.
And like you said before, like he got the instruments in, and now that they're jamming, there's no one that hears this in the school.
Yes, yeah, we definitely run into that later on. So it's like, how does no one hear what's going on? But like he manages to talk them into it, but tells them that they have to keep it a secret. Again, another big red flag, right there.
Yeah, if an adult's telling you to keep stuff a secret, not a good thing.
No.
Yeah, that is the reddest of the red flags, I would say. But the part where the one kid, Leonard, he asks, You mean we're not in the band? Is adorable.
Yep.
Yeah, the funny thing that kid was in. Have you guys ever seen the movie Pootie Tang?
I haven't.
A long time ago.
Yeah, he played like the young version of Pootie Tang in that movie. So like I kind that's where that kid has been in. I mean, he's an adult by now, I'm sure. But so Dewey then gets the idea to assign different positions and roles for everybody, starting with backup singers.
Mhm.
So he's like, oh, okay, do any of you guys sing? And then this girl named Marta raises her hand and she sings Tomorrow from Annie. And then another girl named Alicia sings Amazing Grace. And both girls, very cute little girls, very good voices, and they're chosen right away. I think the girl who played Alicia was in those movies, Are We There Yet or Are We Done Yet with Ice Cube.
Right.
I think she was the daughter in those movies a couple years later.
Okay.
I believe it.
I recognized her from that, but so both of those girls are chosen, and then Summer volunteers to sing the song "Memory" from Cats, but is not very good. Which is funny because Miranda Cosgrove actually could sing very well, but she had to try and sing bad on purpose.
Exactly.
And I think she later on did a few a few records while she was on iCarly, so she had like a little bit of a pop career for a bit there.
Yeah,
I mean, I didn't think she was that terrible.
No. Like she wasn't even off key on that, but it's just the way she delivered it. She tried to like, okay, sing bad,
Yeah.
Yeah. Jack Black wasn't having it, so yeah. I see that. Like she sounded good, but like yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that was a great scene all around. Just seeing the kids kind of learn what they could do and what they couldn't.
Yep.
So later in the cafeteria, Lawrence walks up to Dewey and he tells him that Mr. S, I don't think I should be in the band because, and they ask why. He's like, well, rock and roll that's for cool people, and I'm not cool. And the funny, funny thing is about that, I heard like a story, when I was watching the behind the scenes documentary that Robert, the kid, was even kind of like that for real. He's like, I don't really know a lot about rock. Should I be in this movie? Like, I'm not an actor. And so it's a weird thing of like art imitating life.
Yep. Exactly.
How they wrote that in there. And I thought they did a great job of writing the roles for the kids.
Yep. The one who had to act the most was definitely Zach, because like towards the end of the movie he's more acting like himself, but in the beginning it's very like he had to act the most, and he did an excellent job.
Yeah,
I think as a musician, as like a kid, like at that age, it can be a little alienating, like to be, especially if you're really good and and you're above your other peers, in school. So
he was always better than I. That's for sure.
So I could always see that, not be thinking you're cool. Or
I mean, it was a really sweet scene where Lawrence was talking to Dewey and saying, he's like, none of the other kids really talk to me. And you could tell he's sort of a shy, quiet kid who's very studious, probably very smart, as well as being talented at music. But like Dewey kind of cheers him up and says like, look, the way you play is cool, and encourages him to stick with it and teaches him a little handshake. And it's such a great scene.
The greatest thing that nobody gets, but I always do, like, let's rock
today. Yeah. Supposedly, like, again, it's another thing of
it was improvised,
just being Jack, and just being himself. So yeah, a great scene all around. And then with Back in Black playing in the background, he has the kids Dewey has the kids line up in class after lunch as Dewey assigns them positions and nicknames, of course. So Zach naturally on lead guitar, Katie on bass, Lawrence on keys, Freddie on drums, Marta and Alicia on vocals, while he has Frankie, Leonard, and Billy are tasked with security and keeping the project a secret, including fully soundproofing the room, quote unquote.
Exactly.
Which I'm pretty sure is next to impossible.
Yeah.
Especially with that kind of room with wood floorboards. But
dude, Jack, I got noise complaints when we were practicing at my place.
That's right.
And, I have rug pads on the drums, like every possible thing I could think of, and we played quietly, but it still shook other people's places. So
Yeah. This is in the early days, Joe. Gabe was jamming with me and the Vertebreaker guys for a little bit, and
Okay.
Before he was doing his own thing. Now he's got something going on right now, or at least trying to get something going on. So it was good times. But where was I? But he was assigning the security guards, and then Billy then asks to be the band stylist instead, which Dewey agrees to it. Dewey agrees to it without missing a beat. He's like, yeah, go do it.
And that's something I brought up to Jack about like the timeliness of this movie, and like, you know, there's a lot of talk these days about, like, you know, things being woke and everything, and and stuff like that. And this was sort of woke before its day, because, you know, what most of those people are looking for is to value people just as themselves, not as, you know, this kind of person or that kind of person. And Dewey Finn is one of those kinds of people who just kind of accepts whoever they are, you know, get
He
you want to be a
wasn't
singer, sing something for me, you know, I don't care what you look like. Yeah,
he wasn't really mean to the kids or anything like that, and just he was a very good teacher in a lot of ways.
Let's clarify. Once he knew they could play music and they could play instruments, then he was nice.
True. But I mean, he got there eventually, and that's the thing with Billy. Obviously, he's a very effeminate little boy, and I think the actor who played him is gay. I think, you know, because I've seen some of the reunion videos where they came back 10 years later and they've done some stuff. We'll get into that a little bit, but but I mean, it was a funny moment. But they weren't mean spirited about it, obviously. But then he assigns Gordon, Marco, and Tamika to have lights, to do lighting, to handle equipment and special effects. They're basically the roadies, the techs. And he wasn't sure what to do with Summer and these two other little girls, Michelle and Eleni, and he assigns them to be groupies. Although he calls them that
doesn't age quite as well.
I mean, couldn't he have given them a tambourine?
Right, yeah, have them on tambo in the background. But
it gives them an important job.
But he explains to that the position has more to do with merchandise design and marketing and naming the band. So I mean, calling them groupies was a bit of a joke, but like really, I mean, they were basically merch girls and designers, and which is a very important thing if you're in a band and able to have someone who can do that. So the two girls are really psyched about it, but Summer isn't really feeling it that much. And Dewey then assigns himself as lead singer and rhythm guitarist.
Of course he would.
Yeah, because of course he would put him up, and then he makes them say the pledge, which is great, very funny. So the next day, Dewey pulls up to work with. I like the fact that it was the song "Substitute" by The Who playing in the background. Great choice. As he pulls up in the parking lot, he sees Summer out there, very angrily waiting for him in the parking lot. And it's funny how she's trying to like mean mug at the time. Yeah, back then Miranda was such a good little actress. But she told him that she researched what groupies really are, and she's like, no way am I doing that. But Dewey insists that, like, he's like, hey, that is not what I meant by it. It says it's more like being a cheerleader. And she's like, I don't want to be a cheerleader.
That could have went in a very dark.
Yes.
Yeah. Dewey, next time,
Let's
use a different
name. Not age appropriate at all.
Nope.
But Summer then refuses and still threatens to tell her mom. And Dewey kind of relents and he says, like, all right, I didn't want to say it in front of the kids, but I think you should be the band manager. Basically making sure everyone is doing their job. And she's like, oh yeah, I mean, I get to be the boss of everybody. I'm on board.
Exactly. That fit her to a T.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. So in the classroom, Summer, takes attendance while Dewey is asking the kids what kind of music that they like. And so the answers range from Christina Aguilera to Puff Daddy.
Liza Minnelli.
Yeah, Liza Minnelli, but I mean, mainly obviously just pop artists of the day and like hip hop and stuff like that. But much to Dewey's disappointment, and he mentions stuff like Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, AC/DC, Motorhead. None of these kids have any idea who the band is.
Right.
But think about it though. How old are they? What are they? They're 10.
10, yeah.
I think
there's no way they're gonna know about it.
Some maybe, but I mean, you gotta give these kids a little bit of a break.
There's a chance that Zach might know about it, but obviously his dad wouldn't let him listen. Maybe.
Yeah, like I knew about the Beatles when I was about 10, but Only because I had first seen, when I was 7, I saw Michael Jackson on a screen. Okay, on a screen, not anywhere else. And and so like I got obsessed with it, and he and I went on a road trip to bring my grandfather's car from Birmingham to California. So it was a week-long trip, and my dad could only take so much of Thriller. So The Girl Is Mine was probably my favorite song, and it had Paul McCartney in it. And we stop at a place, and he gets some stuff, and it's like, this is the Beatles. This is who sings in that Michael Jackson song. And so that's how I learned about the Beatles. And
there you go.
Stuff like that, but it's highly unlikely any of these kids had anything like that with their parents.
I mean, it's not unreasonable to assume that they might not know a lot.
Yeah. It's not totally unreasonable because I think as you're a kid, and as now that I'm a parent, like I try to somewhat influence my child, with music that I listen to, like the Beatles. Like we were playing, we were putting a puzzle together. And I put on the Beatles' greatest hits on vinyl, and Cece's like, "What's this?" I'm like, "This is the Beatles." I'm like, "This is the best thing.
This is the greatest band ever."
She didn't say that it sucked.
That's good.
But she was kind of just like, "Okay, what is this?" But she didn't care as much. But I want to say on my side, like I think the first time I was really introduced to music, and it's so strange. Like in 2nd grade, I was introduced to Nirvana.
Nice.
There was this one kid in 2nd grade that was like randomly obsessed with Nirvana, and like from there started like my obsession with like harder music. Even though I was like in like 2nd grade.
Sure.
And I had I don't go off a tangent, but this is kind of how it molded me like musically. I had a cousin who. He was probably like 18 or something, and we always would go over, and he had a massive like music collection. So he had like Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit, like the single. He had Kiss, Psycho Circus, like stuff like that I remember I remember with that, and like. He would try to make me mixtapes of music, which my dad was having nothing about. Like my dad was probably like one of those parents.
Maybe, yeah. Same with mine. But anyway, getting back to the movie. Yeah. So Dewey then assigns a new curriculum. He assigns rock history, rock appreciation and theory, which I laughed at, and then band practice. And Summer, of course, asks how they'll be graded, but Dewey just shuts her down, tells her not to grade grub. Great line. Dewey explains that he will write the songs, and I love how Zach puts him on the spot, like, okay, let's hear it.
Yep.
just deadpans it. It's like, let's hear your song.
And just real quick, I want to just say how much I love. I don't know if it was scripted or anything, but like he says, Summer, if you grade grub one more time, I'm gonna send you back to the first grade.
Yeah. Send you back to 1st grade. Yeah, great line.
Yeah.
So then Dewey then sort of comically performs the legend of the Rent. I forget if that's what they ended up calling it, or like In the End of Time. I think it's what they called it.
Right.
But and it's funny, like hearing him describe it. It's like I kind of want to hear how like a full production of that song would be. Like the way he's describing it, it's like that probably sounds amazing. I mean, goofy lyrics aside, but again, like how the kids are able to keep a straight face throughout this whole thing is impressive. I don't know, who knows how many takes they must have had to do of this one. But like the back and forth between Dewey and Summer is really great. And then so then at lunch, Eleni and Michelle approach Dewey with some possible names for the band. And at first, they suggest the typical little girl names like, the Bumblebees or the Koala Bears. Which they turn down. Somehow they throw Pig Rectum in there, which like, what? Like, where did that come from? Completely out of left field.
Because he said they were being too sissy, so it's.
Yeah, so they just went complete 180 in the other direction. I'm surprised Pig Rectum isn't an actual death metal band out there.
Yeah,
like,
I'm sure they are.
I'm sure it must be. I love how he how like they said it in front of Roz, and he's like, "Oh, it's a science experiment. We'll talk about it later." Great cover right away.
Yep.
So then Dewey approaches Roz about organizing a field trip. She kind of explains that like that's a complicated matter. You've got to get permission slips and insurance, and there's a lot of liability when it comes to that.
Right.
But while she does that, she introduces Dewey to the rest of the teachers. And there's a little back and forth where he actually quotes "The Greatest Love of All" by Whitney Houston. It's like, yeah, well, I mean, you just got to teach them and lead the way. And they're like, isn't that a song? No, it's not.
No.
But they're like, yes, it totally is. It's funny, the gym teacher kind of looks like Kyle Gass.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder why they didn't just cast Kyle in a cameo. They should have just done that, but it wasn't him. But later the kids are practicing and working on their assignments, and I love the scene where Dewey teaches Zach how to loosen up, hit the power stance. Very funny stuff.
Yeah.
And then later, as the kids leave, Dewey hands out some like stuff from his CD collection as part of their homework. Marta gets assigned Blondie, while Lawrence gets Yes, especially Roundabout. I forget what the name of the album that Roundabout was on, but he gets a copy of that. Freddie gets a copy of 2112 by Rush. Amazing. Zach gets assigned Jimi Hendrix's Axis, Bold as Love. Zach seems like weirdly unenthusiastic about it though, which Dewey kind of notices like, oh, that's weird. I wonder why he doesn't seem that into it. So then once the rest of the kids are gone, Tamika sort of nervously approaches Dewey, and she waits till the other kids are gone and says like, Mr. S, I don't want to be a roadie anymore. And Dewey's very confused. Like he was like, okay, well, what do you want to do? Like security? But then she admits that she wants to be a singer. And so Dewey asks and is like, okay, well, why don't you sing me something? But like, she's very shy, very nervous to do it. And at first she hesitates, and he kind of eggs her on a little bit. But then she belts out a few bars of Chain of Fools by Aretha Franklin, and amazing. Like this girl, just really great, just powerful voice, and you can see her
like a woman, not just a little kid.
Yeah, like a lot of maturity, especially for a girl that age. And so he's immediately impressed to see her kind of come out of her shell like that, and hands her a copy of Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, and says, "Listen to the song, The Great Gig."
Solo.
The vocal solo on The Great Gig in the Sky. So. Yeah, but a really nice scene to see her kind of like come out of her shell and just kind of overcome her fear a little bit.
And for the people who might be yelling at the screen or their iPod or whatever you listen to, the Yes album he gave him is called Fragile.
Fragile, yes, that's it. That was the one that had Roundabout on it. Good call. I forgot about that. But the next morning, Dewey is getting ready to go to work with. And the background song is called Roadrunner by the Modern Lovers. I'm not really familiar with this song besides this movie. But as Dewey walks toward the school, he overhears Zach sort of being, scolded by his dad, his dad wants him to wait until he does his homework and his chores, and then he can play music. But he specifies like, hey, no more rock music. You practice your classical guitar. And Zach sort of begrudgingly agrees. And, Zach's dad seems a bit strict, but I mean, I don't think he wasn't like in an abusive way.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, I don't think they tried to play it that way. He's just a very sort of uptight dad and just, very just a little bit overly strict, but not like a bad guy.
Yeah, but like sort of in a harmful way, because he was taking the joy out of any kind of joy in life. Like he was doing his best to crush it, because to keep him serious. And while there's a place for that kind of thing, because frankly, adult life is that.
It can be.
Did the dad come from the town in Footloose?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Footloose town.
Yeah. It was a little bit over the top, but like I don't think they tried to play it as him being like an abusive dad. I think he was just very strict and just very by the book, and I obviously like as parents now, me and Joe both have kids now, so like we're trying to like, okay, well what's the line I need to be? Obviously you want to be serious, but not go over the line. So that's the whole thing. But later in class, Zach, he seems a bit down in the dumps. He's not like crying or anything, but like he definitely seems pretty dejected.
He's depressed. Yeah.
Yeah. So Dewey walks in and he has he and the kids, they talk about sticking it to the man and, getting sort of that rebellious attitude, but not really being rebellious, just more like standing up for yourself. And it's a really, really great scene. And I like the bit where he tells the kids to sort of tell him off.
Right.
And I really think Billy is the funniest in that one. He's like, even after that, it's like, you're tacky and I hate you. He's like, Billy, we're not insulting me again. It's like, no, I really hate you. It's like, see me after class. So really funny little back and forth there. So they later improvise a song called "Step Off," and it was a cute scene because like you see the kids like sing along with him, and like you can tell they're genuinely laughing at some of the the faces he's making and what like that's real laughter that the kids are putting in there. So very cute scene. Later on in lunch, Dewey is sitting with the other teachers, and he's telling all these just spinning all these tall tales about all the just completely making up his backstory. He's like, yeah, I worked with this orchestra and that before I got into teaching, and but he's hitting it off with the rest of the teachers. As he's in the middle of this, Zach sort of comes up to Dewey and says it's like, hey, Mr. S, I just wanted to say that was a really cool lesson, and so the other teachers are really impressed. It's like, wow, he's really connecting with the students. That's really impressive. So then we have this really nice montage of the kids sort of learning their parts, and the background song is "My Brain Is Hanging Upside Down," or "Bonzo Goes to Bitburg" by the Ramones. Great song. I like the diagram of all the subgenres on the blackboard. I thought that was really impressive. Yeah, seeing the kids learn all the the three girls, the backup singers, learn like the dance moves, I thought was very cute. Yep. Just seeing them do that, and then Zach is watching footage of Pete Townsend, Jimi Hendrix, and Angus Young, and the scene of him at home practicing in front of the mirror, like that almost made me tear up a little bit, because I mean honestly, like that just reminded me so much of like of myself at that age when you're first learning how, and
who hasn't done that?
Yeah, and it was just I don't know, it kind of got me choked up a little bit, because it just reminds you of like what it's like to really discover something for the first time, and
be absolutely in love with it.
Yeah, and I think they used that clip in like a trailer for in a commercial for the movie, and it's like, when was the last time and I remember it was like, when was the last time you really lost yourself in the music? And they used that clip, and it's just like, man, like that's so great. And then Dewey shows them like slide pictures of Iggy Pop, the Ramones, the Clash, and Nirvana. Definitely leaning hard on like sort of the punk alternative side of things and how that evolved over the years. So Freddie watches a video of like various drummers. He sees Buddy Rich, Keith Moon, and this other older jazz drummer who I don't recognize. I don't know what drummer that was, but it looked like black and white footage of an older African American gentleman from like the 40s and the 50s maybe.
Oh, we'll edit in the answer later.
Sure, yeah. Let us know in the comments. Be nice, all right. But yeah, so one day, Freddie and Katie are walking through the hallway and just sort of having this conversation about female drummers. And Freddie is like fully embracing like the punk fashion and trying to be as punk as possible in his uniform, despite Roz's intervention. And then as she walks by, and the one line, "Miss Mullins, you're the man." That line from Frankie was really funny. And she says, "Thank you," and the kids all laugh. Really funny scene. And then later in the teachers' lounge, Roz is talking to the teachers, reminding them of the upcoming parents' night, which Dewey had no idea about, and it just nearly
spills
panicked.
Coffee on himself.
Yeah, spills coffee on himself, nearly has a panic attack right there. And Dewey sort of confides in the other teachers and sort of asks indirectly if Roz has always been as high-strung and uptight. And the teachers kind of agree, but they also tell this story about Roz getting drunk at an alumni dinner and dancing on the table like Stevie Nicks. So then,
I just want to say that's a lot to put on a substitute teacher.
Right.
Having to go through a parent-teacher conference, or
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure most substitute teachers might not have known about it, but he was supposed to be there for an extended amount of time, like for weeks, I think, at a time. Because it was like almost a semi, it was like a semi-regular, assignment there.
I feel for him on that.
Of course. So Dewey then his wheels start turning about how he can possibly make Roz, loosen up a little bit. So then the next day, we hear the song "The Weight" by Metallica, which is a cover of a song from a band called Killing Joke. So one of those new wave of British heavy metal bands that they would cover on Garage Days and Garage Inc. and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And so Dewey and Summer and sort of the core band members, they all sneak out for an audition for the Battle of the Bands, while the rest of the class, while the rest of the class, it's like the very organized thing where they're hiding and they have walkie-talkies, and so the rest of the class stays behind to try and use audio recordings to maintain their cover. Very elaborate stuff, especially for kids that age.
Exactly.
So the audition...
They're smart kids. I think I believe that they could pull it off.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you on that one.
Sure. So the auditions are at this larger venue, which is like an older theater, and Freddie overhears some of the other musicians sort of snickering, and it's like, oh, kids, what is this, some kind of gimmick? And he's there ready to throw down with them right away. He's like, you want to go? And he's ready to pick a fight, and before Dewey stops him. Now before they go on, Tamika, sort of starts panicking a little bit. She takes Dewey aside. She's like, I don't know if I can sing, and so Dewey kind of takes her aside and tries to, what's going on? And she just reveals that, she's self-conscious, and, she's a little bit of an overweight girl. So she's worried that people are going to make fun of her appearance and her body or whatever it might be. And so Dewey reassures her that it's no one's going to do that. And that, and he gives her this really nice talk about how body image doesn't really, it doesn't matter when it comes to going out there and singing your heart out. That's what's really important. And it's a really sweet scene as he cheers her up. And so as they return to the line with the rest of the band, Summer tells Dewey that Freddie got invited to some guy's van. Huge red flag. That terrifies Dewey.
Huge.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. So he's freaking out at this point. He rushes outside to look for Freddie and finds him in some van with some of the other musicians that he was about to fight a few minutes ago.
Yep.
And it looks like they're just playing cards. I don't know what card game they're playing, but he's sitting there with these other guys who were. It looks like they're drinking and smoking, and they also have a great song in the background, "Black Shuck" by The Darkness,
which was replaced by "Growing on Me" on the soundtrack.
Interesting, yeah. Both great songs. So Dewey was trying to get Freddie out of there, and he sort of berates the guys in the van for partying with the kid and not being good examples, and it's so it's funny to it's funny to see him try to be responsible adult. The bit with Dewey pointing his finger into the one guy's nose, that always makes me laugh for some reason. It's just such a goofy thing he does. But so as Dewey pulls Freddie aside, he teaches Freddie that rock and roll isn't about, despite what he might think, it's not about getting loaded and acting like a jerk. So, he's trying to be responsible about it.
But literally contradictory of how he was at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah. But I mean, we're starting to see some of the growth of the character, which is really nice. Yeah. So Dewey, when Dewey and the kids get inside, they find out the auditions are over, and despite some of Dewey's objections at first, the promoters, they just won't budge. A couple things before we get into this scene. I've been in a few battles of the bands. Most of them don't have auditions.
Right. Especially in the middle of the day.
Yeah, especially in a weekday.
Yeah.
I mean, most battles of the bands, are not very legit. They're just. I try to avoid most of them because most of them don't really have very. In my experience, they haven't had a lot of really substantial prizes, and most of the time they just want you to pay whatever the fee is to get in there, and it's sort of a scam. You don't really
kind of thing.
It really is. At least most of the ones that I've been in. I'm not saying all of them are like that, but most of them rarely amount to much of anything. But in this movie, it's a big deal, and it's a legit thing, and it's sponsored by the radio station, so it seems to be more of a legit thing. But Summer gets an idea though, and she has Dewey tell the promoters that the kids are all suffering from a terminal illness. and seeing Freddie lay down on the ground next to the van was a nice touch. Amazing, all right, you're overselling it a little bit.
Yeah.
So, but they end up getting convincing the guy to let them onto the bill, like to the very end. The scene with them driving back with "Immigrant Song" by Led Zeppelin was playing. That was really funny, and they had to beg to get Led Zeppelin to authorize to get that song in there, because Zeppelin typically is not like, they don't license their songs out to a lot of people. Like, it was pretty much this movie, and like Avengers: Infinity War, or Thor Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, but no, it's like, have you seen there's actually a DVD extra where where it shows them, like, the crowd at the end of the movie.
Yeah, where Jack is trying to record and making a pitch.
Yeah, they got all of them. It's like, please let us use the song.
Yeah, I've got the DVD too, so I've seen that a bunch of times. But the scene of them driving back and singing along to it was pretty funny. So back in the classroom, Eleni and Michelle come up with the name School of Rock. And
it's brilliant.
Yeah, I also love, there are several scenes in the background of seeing the one kid, Gordon. He was like showing the singers like some dance moves. He was always like busting out a few dance moves in the background. Like, this kid was really funny. So when Dewey hears the name, he improvises like, it's like, there's no way you can stop the School of Rock, and it almost sounds like that could have been an actual song. Yeah. But they don't end up using that for the rest of the movie. Frankie alerts the kids that, you know, Roz is on her way, and the kids immediately hide all the gear. You know, very, very classic, you know.
Yes, very clever, too.
Yeah, very clever way of doing it. So once Roz enters, they all sort of act as if Dewey is teaching just a regular math lesson. And Roz says that finally, as we all suspected, that, another teacher, Miss Mullins, actually heard that there was some music coming from the classroom. Is everything okay in here? So, of course, that soundproofing wasn't... Yeah, the soundproofing obviously didn't take all the way. Hang on a second. Dewey and the kids completely deny it until she spots Dewey's guitar, which is like right there in the corner. Obviously, they forgot to pull that away, which is a really nice red Gibson SG. I have a guitar that looks like it, but it's an Epiphone. I always love that design.
Yeah.
And which, you know, Dewey failed to hide that and get that out of the way. So Dewey kind of makes up a bit on the spot about, I use, what she might have heard was that the fact that I use music sometimes as like an experimental to teach math, as sort of experimental educational technique, which he just kind of pulls right out of his butt, you know, completely tries to improvise something with, he's barely able to pull it off with Marta's help, and Marta kind of goes along with it.
Yeah.
Really smart girl, as Roz sort of, you know, sits back and watches him teach.
Yeah.
So after school, Roz and Dewey are talking, and she's obviously like, I don't know about this experimental technique. Like, if you just stick to curriculum, I'd really appreciate that. And Dewey kind of asks Roz to go get a cup of coffee with him and to talk about teaching.
Yep.
So Roz is sort of surprised that, like, because like usually she's not used to any of her coworkers wanting to hang out with her after work, so she's sort of taken aback, but she agrees to it. I mean, it's not really played as like a romantic moment or anything, but she's just like, oh wow, yeah, no, I'm glad to have someone to hang out with. At this, so they cut to this local like hipster bar downtown, and they have a song called "Set You Free" by the Black Keys kind of playing in the background. Joey, I always thought you kind of looked like the drummer from the Black Keys. Patrick?
I do.
A little bit here and there.
I could see it maybe a little bit.
It's more in the glasses, really.
Yeah, I would say that as well.
I mean, you're a much better looking man than him, so don't worry about it.
Is that like one of the earlier, I guess, performances of the Black Keys? When did they really start getting popular? I thought it was
I
later.
Don't know. I don't think they like really hit until later on, but like it was like Gold on the Ceiling and all that stuff.
But
that's
what I'm saying.
That was later on.
I mean, that's cool though. But
yeah. But at this local, you know, hipster bar, they each get like a mug of beer instead of coffee.
Are you sure you don't have any coffees? Like, we're quite sure, yes.
yeah. That the server is like, he in particular is very funny looking and sounding. It's like you could tell this guy's trying to, whoever this extra is, he's trying to get in there and just make a creative choice. And, I mean, Joe, your brother-in-law Lawrence probably could have played this guy. I'm just saying, if you wanted to.
Maybe,
just an exaggerated version of him. But Dewey nearly slips up and tells Roz his real name, before remembering that he's there as Ned.
Right.
So it's like, oh no, Dewey's my middle name.
My other name, my middle name.
Yeah. Yeah.
But earlier in the movie, he was like, when they're having that first exchange, he was like, make all checks out to Dewey. you know?
Yeah, Dewey. Yeah. So he's trying to cover for that, but
yeah, which they can't do that. And I was like, no.
right. So Roz nervously takes like a few sips of her beer as Dewey walks over to the jukebox and plays Edge of 17 by Stevie Nicks.
Yep.
And he starts kind of dancing, rocking out to it. That causes Roz to loosen up a little bit. I mean, she's clearly a huge Stevie fan. So he's kind of using that and trying to talk her into approving the field trip for the kids to go see. He describes as the Philharmonic.
Yeah,
which is
Mozart,
clearly not that.
Beethoven, Enya.
He's trying to find a way to like get them out of class, like somewhat legitimately, without too much trouble. So as they drive back to the parking lot of the school, Dewey is he's like singing the theme song from Good Times for some reason. Not sure why. And at this point, Roz is kind of annoyed, but it's like, okay, all right, that's enough.
Yeah, it's a common in my household. It's a very common conversation.
Right. Yeah. If you go full Jack Black for too long, It's like, all right, back it down a notch. Yeah. But like sort of an awkward moment there. But then Roz, sort of confides in Dewey that this is the first time any of the teachers have asked her to do something outside of work in 6 years. And Roz has this really great like monologue and character beat about how she says, I wasn't always this uptight. I used to be a fun person, but just the pressures of the job and as principal is like turned her into something she never wanted to be. And it's very emotional stuff there. I mean, even though it's kind of played for laughs, but it's kind of a serious moment as well.
I can totally understand that on with what I do. Because I'm administration with education, so I understand those. A lot of the weight on that could be on your shoulder.
It fleshes her character out a lot more. It makes her a lot more of like a real person. And you get to see that side of her rather than being this caricature of what a teacher is.
Right.
So, and Dewey's like, I think you're cool. Like, he kind of reassures her, although in that moment, it's hard to tell if he's really being sincere in that moment. Cause like, he's kind of just using her really to get permission. But it's like, I mean, I guess.
I think he's being sincere that like, from why because like that was something that he loved Stevie Nicks too. So it's not like they don't have anything in common.
But and like to your point, Gabe, he seems to kind of be accepting of pretty much everybody. So it's like I'm sure there's some genuineness, even though he's kind of using her a little bit.
Yep.
It seems like he kind of likes her a little bit.
Yeah.
Not in like a romantic way. They don't really play it. They don't really play it like a romance kind of thing. But it's just more of a friendship thing. But the next day in class, it almost. There's this one scene where it almost looked like Zach is trying to impress Eleni and Michelle as he's playing guitar. But while he's doing this, Dewey and Summer sort of go over the stage plot and what equipment they need, and then then Billy walks up and then presents Dewey with his latest fashion ideas. As Katie and Freddie come out in these outfits as a glitter rock and glam, respectively.
Yep.
Which is funny because like besides the boots, I don't think Katie's outfit looks all that outrageous and ridiculous. Although like Freddie's outfit looks like a mixture of like David Bowie and like Freddie Mercury, like 70s Freddie, and like Rush and T-Rex, straight up 70s glam. It's a funny moment.
It mixed with some 50s sci-fi.
Sure.
Spaceman.
And of course, Billy is naturally just very sassy, and just criticizes Dewey's bow tie and sort of a funny back and forth.
About my bow tie.
Yes. So much sass from this kid. And while Dewey is like overhearing this new riff that Zach is kind of playing through, and so Dewey approaches Zach and it's like, hey, are you working on something? Let's hear more of it. And so Zach is sort of uncomfortable at first, but he sort of reluctantly kind of plays through it and sings along to it. And he reminds me of of my buddy Greg's son. Greg was one of my former bandmates, a great guitar player, and his son. I knew his kid since he was a little guy, and he plays guitar and drums now. He's a teenager, great kid, Parker. Shout out Parker if you're listening. Yeah, Zach kind of reminds me of him a little bit. But the band then starts to kind of work on Zach's song as Dewey kind of helps arrange it, and there's this shot where like Dewey kind of backs off and sort of looks back at Zach and has like this really look of pride on his face, and seeing Zach get more confident, it's a really nice moment.
Yeah,
Gets me every time.
And a great thing about this scene is sort of showing the positive side of Dewey, and the message of the movie is that while it's good to be, you got to be strict with your kids, but at the same time you got to let them kind of grow into their own person. And this is probably, like, all these kids, this is probably the first time that something they do on their own they've gotten actual real praise for, especially Zach.
You could definitely you could definitely interpret it that way, but it's especially, but just seeing them kind of get more confident in their own skin, which it's tough to do at that age, regardless. But it's a really nice moment there.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, Dewey gives like a little pep talk to the kids, since tomorrow is the big day of the concert. And in the hallways, Dewey sort of asks Roz about, like, kind of reminds her about letting the kids go on the field trip, like they talked about before, but she kind of forgot about it. And she's like, well, I don't know about it. And he's like, but you said, and she's like, yeah, I know I said it in the moment, but like she wasn't really thinking it through, and she's just not sure about it. And her mind is elsewhere. Like she's very stressed because that night also happens to be parents' night. And she asks Dewey if he could go with her, and I guess go.
Yeah, take her. Yeah.
Yeah, take her there, even though he's going to be there anyway because he's the teacher. But like originally he wasn't sure that he was going to go, but he has to be there anyway.
Yeah.
But, Roz like specifies that it's not a date thing, but it almost kind of plays it like you're not sure if maybe she might like Dewey a little bit. She might be interested in him that way in that moment a little bit. But they don't go too deep into it.
Yeah.
But later at the apartment, Ned notices that Dewey is getting all dressed up again, and Dewey just sort of is like, oh yeah, I'm going on, I got a hot date, and just kind of explains it that way. While this is going on, Ned opens up some mail, and he's surprised to find some paychecks made out to him from Horace Green. And so he's very confused about this, and so he goes to call the school office and nearly gives away the whole plan before Dewey stops him and hangs up the phone. He's like, he confesses about what he's been doing and does this whole quick, confession about, what he's been up to these last couple weeks.
Yeah. And a great Jack Black way, because it's like he's like, well, I'm not cool into taking random parts.
Super rapid fire. He's trying to recap the entire movie into 30 seconds. He tries to convince Ned. He's like, please, Ned, I just need one more day. Please don't say anything. And Ned is just horrified and confused at this point. But Dewey tries to play it cool as Patty walks in. And I wrote down, I was like, does Patty live with them now? Because she's there all the time. I didn't know if she's trying to move into the apartment and trying to get this guy out of here.
Right.
But Patty immediately suspects that something is going on. And Ned sort of tries to cover for Dewey, but Patty is not buying it.
Right.
She can tell. So as they arrive to the school, we have the song Moon Age Daydream by David Bowie. I'm not as familiar with that tune, but pretty cool to hear.
It's school, I'm an alligator.
Yeah,
it's in Guardians of the Galaxy too.
It must have been from Ziggy Stardust, from that era. But at the school, Dewey and Roz drive up, and Dewey is feeling really guilty. He's about to confess what's going on to Roz, but Roz kind of misunderstands. He's like, no, you're a good teacher. You're not a fraud. You're not this and that, even though he really is a fraud.
Yeah.
She just misunderstood what. He's like, look, you're a great teacher. The parents are going to love you, and. So a bit of a misunderstanding there. We cut to inside the classroom where both the parents and the kids are there. Now, I guess this is a thing because I think kids have done that, but I had never gone to a parent-teacher night with my parents.
Never.
So I think
been
some
to
kids might have done that.
Kind of like that. I went to Catholic school growing up, and there was
me too.
There were things that sometimes there would be events, maybe not. A parent's day necessarily, but they had
for us it would be an open house or something.
Yeah, open house. Yeah, so it's kind of like that. But all the kids happen to be there with their parents. while Dewey sort of fumbles his way through his presentation. He's just trying to make up stuff on the spot. The parents are immediately skeptical because they have brains in their head.
Yeah.
They're immediately
paying $15,000 a year for tuition.
Right.
So
yeah, no, I get it totally.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not there yet with my kids, but I will be.
You're saving.
So so the parents are immediately asking questions about why the kids are so focused on music, and it's like, my son says listening to this CD is homework. Like, how is that homework? And then the kids are wondering, like, hey, Mr. S, why do we have to keep the project a secret at this time, like, from their parents? And they sort of start to spill the beans as Dewey notices that there are a few cops outside the classroom. He sees the police officers and arrive with Patty and Ned, and Roz approaches, and Dewey's like kind of panicking, and he's just trying to like make this last minute plea to tell the parents how great the kids are and how proud he is, until finally the officer walks in and everyone's like, what's going on? And Patty easily got the information out of Ned, and then
way to go, Patty.
Of course, she called the cops.
Obviously.
She was the one who did that, which, I mean, not the wrong decision, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, it's definitely illegal what he's doing. Dewey finally tells everyone that, his real name, and explains that he's not a real teacher. And, and he explains the impact that the kids have had on him, but with a very poor choice of words.
Right.
It's not a great look.
I have touched your kids. And I'm pretty sure they have touched me, and I'm pretty sure I've touched them. It's like, oh my God.
So, just a terrible, terrible way to explain that, even though that's not what's going on. But the parents are naturally horrified regardless. I mean, just how he is not arrested on the spot in this scene is a miracle. Like, because he runs from the scene. Like, how are the cops not, does he get past them? Like, that's crazy. And it's like... It's like you just ran from an arrest. Like, you should be in jail at this point.
So one of those suspend the disbelief necessities.
So that's pretty wacky. So back at the apartment, Ned and Patty arrive, and they're just disgusted with Dewey, understandably. And as Dewey and Patty keep arguing back and forth, Ned finally grows a pair and gets involved and pleads with them to stop fighting. So as Patty leaves, Dewey apologizes to Ned, explaining that it was harder for him to give up on his dream of being a rock star, and Ned kind of confesses, like, look, it wasn't easy for me, and he explains that he misses it, but at some point he just kind of felt that it just wasn't going to happen, and just thinks that maybe we were never that good in the first place.
Right.
And so Dewey's like, well, I mean, what am I supposed to do now? And Ned says, I don't know, but maybe it's time you moved out. And Dewey is very crushed to hear this at this point. So the next day at school, the kids are all in the classroom waiting for, I guess, their next substitute teacher to come in, whoever's going to take over for Dewey at this point. They talk to each other about, because they learned the truth about Dewey and what the project was really about. And Zach is pretty upset. Like, he, understandably, Dewey was just using them to make some money. And Summer is disappointed that they weren't being graded by any of it. Which is funny, because she's clearly worried about, her transcripts, even at that age.
I didn't even know those were a thing back when at that age.
Yeah, she's very, very ambitious little girl. But Freddie's like fine with it. He's like, look, it was a 3-week vacation from school. He's like, even if it was a waste of time. And Lawrence, is like, no, it wasn't a waste of time. Like, and this causes the two boys to nearly start getting in a fight with each other as they argue. But right up until like Tamika sort of comes to Lawrence's defense and even threatening Freddie's like, you better not touch him. Which was cute to see him see her like stick up for him. Tamika suggested that like, look, we've worked way too hard not to play this show, and Alicia agrees. So Freddie kind of backs off and is like, okay, well, what do you guys have in mind? As we cut to the principal's office, all the parents are there, and they're irate.
Understandably livid.
Yeah, they're angrily demanding answers from Roz about how she could let this guy, this con man, come in and just, it's like, you
exactly what I said from the beginning.
Right.
Yeah. Like, obviously they're asking all the questions that we are. Like, do you just let anyone walk off the street and teach at this school? Like, I guess all these parents took off from whatever their jobs are during the week. Yeah. I mean, they're pissed off enough to, I guess, get out of work and come during the day.
Where was HR? Really?
Oh, right?
You know, where were they?
HR at their jobs or HR at the school?
HR at the school.
Oh yeah, I mean, terrible job. Doing, so there's a lot of failures there. It's not all on Roz, but Roz tries to reassure them, but they're not hearing it. So outside, the kids all sneak outside of the school, and they all line up in the bus. Summer kind of directs them toward a school bus, and clearly this poor bus driver, he doesn't really know. He's not privy of what the Dewey situation is, and he doesn't know what's going on. He's like, where's Mr. Schneebly? And Summer somehow convinces the driver that, oh yeah, we're supposed to pick up Mr. S at his house. Now, couple things about this. For one thing, how do the kids know where he lives?
True. That is very true.
Like, how did they get access to his address?
Right.
And the bus driver does not question any of this. He just goes along with it.
Hey, would you? I wouldn't.
He doesn't get
all right.
He's like, look, I don't get paid enough to care.
Yeah,
whatever.
Hour, kids, let's go.
Yeah, whatever.
And societal note, that's why you pay people a decent wage.
Yeah, all right. Let's not get into that. But I'm assuming they somehow got into the payroll records, found out Ned Schneebly's address from the office somehow, did some recon there. So these are smart kids.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I guess the new substitute teacher walks into an empty classroom and is absolutely horrified that the kids have gone missing. Now, I think I think the substitute teacher was Amy Sedaris. I think that might have been who that was, Strangers from Candy. So, little bit of casting there. I didn't recognize her at all. Back in the principal's office, Roz is just overwhelmed by all the angry mob of parents at this point. She runs out of the office, and she's like completely beside herself, and she overhears the substitute teacher searching for the students. So meanwhile, back at Dewey's apartment, Freddie and Lawrence walk in, and they sort of wake up Dewey, who is still sleeping at this point. Which I wrote, thank God Dewey has some clothes on and that the door was unlocked.
Right.
I mean, how they got in there with, the front door was wide open.
Right.
And but I mean, thank God he's at least covered up as these children walk into his place. Dewey asks why they're not at school, and Lawrence says that they did what he told them to do. They stuck it to the man. They snuck out. And Dewey's like, look, guys, you gotta get back to school, all right? Forget about me. I'm a loser and this and that. And Freddie uses Dewey's own words to try and reassure him and talk him into playing the show. And when Freddie points out that the entire class is here, Dewey looks out the window and sees them all, by the bus, and he's impressed. And he's like, you know what the hell? I'll go with them. You kids are pretty cool after all.
Yeah, that's so punk rock.
Exactly. It's a great line.
Not kidnapping. On his part.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't force the kids to come out.
Right.
Yeah. You could blame the bus driver on that one. But
exactly.
So as Ned and Patty are walking back into their place, which I'm like, aren't they supposed to be working? Like, what are they doing in the middle of the day? But they notice Dewey and the two boys in the hallway, and they let them know, like, we're going to play a show. And Patty is disgusted, but Ned seems to kind of be interested.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, like, aren't they supposed to be working? Isn't this a day during the week?
Well, Ned is a substitute teacher.
Well, at least Patty.
You never know. He might not have had an assignment. So who knows?
Yes.
Well, but Patty would be. She's the assistant to the mayor, unless she had a day off or something.
Yeah.
Patty's slacking.
So, right? Yeah. What's going on, Patty? You're playing hooky. So,
that's probably worked for. Never mind.
Who knows?
I had
let's not get it.
A current comment, but I decided to.
Yeah.
Let it go.
She got canceled for using blackface. Anyway,
Andrew Cuomo is the.
Yeah, well,
you can edit that out later.
She's not working for Cuomo.
Right.
Said the mayor, not
trying to get away from him.
Yeah, it's topical.
This is great. I love this.
On the bus, Dewey apologizes for lying to the kids, while Summer is like, "Okay, we'll apologize later. Let's go." She rushes him along. And it's funny because I wonder where they're keeping all the instruments, the gear, the wardrobe.
I was just thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
How are they fitting all that into the school bus?
Under the bus somehow.
Yeah, but it's not that kind of, like, this is a school bus. It's not like a coach. You know what I mean?
It's not like a tour bus.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
no, I agree. I was thinking that too.
Yeah.
Like, where is it's already there?
because, like,
I
it's not
think
just
so.
the
I mean,
instruments, but they also have, like, the wardrobe, the lighting, and all this stuff. So back in the apartment, Ned tells Patty that he wants to go to the show. But Patty just refuses, and she starts just laying into Ned and just like, I can't believe you do this. And so Ned just has enough of it. He closes the door in Patty's face, apparently breaking up with her.
Mhm.
So back at the principal's office, Roz walks in and just at this point, she's like, I forget it. Like, I have nothing to lose at this point, and just casually informs the parents that their kids are currently missing. But like, she's given up on trying to please them.
That was a great scene. I like that.
Yep.
So the parents are, I've just been informed that your children are missing. So here's what we're going to do. Like, she just doesn't care at this point.
Yep.
It's like, she figures, like, I'll probably get fired anyway.
Mhm.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
I don't care. But back at the venue, at the theaters, it appears that, like I said, it appears that the Battle of the Bands is sponsored by, you know, whatever the local radio station is based on, like, the sign. So as Dewey and the kids rush backstage to load in, he spots that no vacancy. His old band is on stage playing, and with sort of a new sound and new look, and sort of like, you know, sort of the modern rock of the day, like a Vertical Horizon or Eve Six, from one of your favorite bands, Gabe.
Did we talk about Spider's shirt or lack of
that
sleeves?
that ensemble is it's upsetting to me. It's just like that's
It is upsetting.
It's just
That's
no
what I would
one wears
suggest for
that.
you, Jack, to wear on stage.
I do not have the stomach to pull that off, so I would not recommend that.
I'll recommend that for anyone.
Right.
No, really. I mean, maybe for this guy, just because this dude's a model. I mean, like, he's just cut out of stone. The actor himself. By the way, the actor who played Spider, his name is Lucas Baden. He's done a few movie roles in TV, but like, he's actually the current district attorney of Tyler County, Texas.
Oh, wow.
Like, he went into politics. He's also has a law degree and was also a fashion model and did a little bit of acting. But
probably cringes every time someone mentions this movie.
Right.
Excuse me, Mr. District Attorney, weren't you in School of Rock? He's like, yeah, it was a thing I did a while ago.
And what did he have a tattoo? He had a tattoo above his belly button. Did it say sex or did say something?
I don't know. He had this like belly tattoo looking like a cross between Tommy Lee and Dave Bautista. Just kind of
yeah.
It was something else. But like, look, he's the hot dude, so I get it. And like, like, I remember, like, in the theaters, like, you had women who were like, oh my god, he's so hot, or like young girls, even in the theaters, like, saying it out loud. So,
but it's like PSA, your past can haunt you at some point.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, his whole ensemble was ridiculous.
But if you're district attorney, then I think you're doing all right.
Yep.
But yeah, but they're playing another like original song called "Heal Me, I'm Heartsick," another thing co-written by Mike White. You know, pretty good tune.
But vastly different from what they were doing.
Yeah, it's much more. It's much more of a ballad.
Yeah.
More of a ballad, sort of commercial, you know, rock at the time. The kids are really impressed though, like hearing the band and seeing the show and looking at the crowd. But Dewey just insults No Vacancy right there on the spot. It's like, oh, these guys are hacks, and I'm like, I think they're pretty good, but whatever.
Well, he's got a beef with them anyway, so
he's bitter. He's still bitter about it. So he calls a quick band meeting because they're running late. They only have time to play one song because, of course, like that would never happen.
Right.
But only in the movie do they just do one and done, and I'm out. So Dewey decides that they should play Zach's song because that's the one song that, like, let's do Zach's song. And the other kids agree, although Summer's a little bit worried. Like, they haven't really practiced it that much. They might not be as tight as they could be, and they might not win.
Hey, Jack, really quick, you can edit this out. Is this before the parents like come into the show and they can't get in? Or
it is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like kind of intercut, like as this is going on.
Because I love that scene, so that's I just want to make sure that.
Yeah, no, I didn't skip over that, but I think this is happening at the same time. So after like sort of the quick, you know, prayer, Dewey reassures them, like, look, this isn't about winning. This is just about playing a great show. And so it was sort of a nice moment there. So the kids, they're all getting fired up, and Zach tells Dewey, he's like, you should sing the song. I'm not much of a singer, you know it. you take the lead vocal in this one. So Dewey's fine with it. And Gordon is worried that he doesn't know all the lighting cues, but Dewey convinces him just to wing it, to improvise. Billy brings Dewey his stage outfit and just urges him, like, hurry up, get changed. And, how they have time to get all this stuff ready is a miracle. Yeah. Yeah, it's pure Angus Young.
And
what
when
he
you're
gets.
talking about the lighting, like, within that scene where they do the performance, it's on computers. Okay, sorry.
Oh, yeah. We'll get into that. Don't worry.
Okay.
But you're absolutely right. So No Vacancy is on stage playing, and Theo has this new haircut, Adam Pascal's character, and Spider is, he's shirtless, like the outfit we mentioned earlier, just the sleeves and nothing else. It's the reverse of a sleeveless tee. Hilarious. He's doing this like swivel hip dance move, like spinning around, clearly not playing guitar at all.
Right.
The band is really good though. Like the song is really good. And so as this is going on, Roz and the parents try to rush into the venue, although security refuses to allow them in without buying tickets. So the adults all agree to just buy tickets to get into the show.
I love that part, just because it's like they were trying so hard to get in.
Right.
And the guy was, it's like, no way. I'm like, really? In a battle? I don't know.
Impressive dude. Like, you gotta give props to the security guy. It's like, he's fighting against like 10 at least.
Yeah, just like an angry mob, basically.
Mob of parents.
Which, by the way, I'm amazed that they didn't come there with the cops.
Right.
True.
Like, you would think that would have been their go-to move at that point. But
and then they're like,
they
okay,
didn't.
we'll buy tickets. Yep. Let's go.
Yeah. They're like, who cares? We just want to get in there and see our kids. So the parents sort of work their way through the crowd to the front row, and this place is packed, like wall to wall with people. Like, I gotta say, any promoter who could put on a rock show during an early weekday afternoon, at the very latest, it's mid-afternoon. Like, it could be earlier than that.
Right.
And to pack a small theater, that dude is an absolute magician, because that never happens in real life.
Or really rich and like is able to pay people to take the day off.
Too, you had the promotion of the radio station too.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So I mean, this place, like,
there's
this
a lot
is a week.
There's a lot.
It's a weekday afternoon.
Yeah. Right.
And I also wrote, like, did these parents all take off work that day? Like, do any of these people have jobs?
I mean, okay,
who are these people?
If you're a parent, and like your kid, you don't know where the hell your kid is.
True. Yeah. No,
it's not going to matter.
The least unrealistic part is the parents all being there. It's like, I mean, if they make enough to pay for the tuition, then they probably are salaried and can.
But this is like all the parents. You'll have like the moms and the dads there.
Yeah.
So it's like, but sure, why not?
Yeah.
But so you're right. That is probably the least realistic. I should say that is probably the most realistic thing that's going on here of any of this. So Dewey and the band finally take the stage and play Zach's song, which is also called School of Rock.
Mm-hmm.
And when Dewey announces that Zach wrote it, before they go into it, Zach's father seems to lighten up a little bit. He's like, "Oh wow, my kid wrote a song." Like, he kind of lightens up a little bit. He's like, and wants to hear it. It sort of softens up. And I wrote this. I don't think Jack Black actually played guitar on the recording.
He didn't.
No. But the band launches into the song, and everyone is in full costume, hair and makeup, with a professional quality light show and background video. No sound check.
Right.
I'm guessing.
No sound check.
But like everything is just completely perfect as it is, and just, of course, it's a movie.
Yeah,
the lighting's perfect. Everything's wonderful. Right on the computer. How they got that, how they synced that up is.
It's a magic trick. It's amazing. So Zach's outfit is definitely a lot like Slash. He's got sort of the top hat. Dewey has, as you mentioned, goes full Angus Young. And so, like, Angus Young meets a little bit of Meatloaf as well.
That's the best.
Angus Young
that's
meets
literally
Meatloaf.
the best, Jack. Thank you.
Well, I mean, Zach's a big guy, but I mean, Jack's a big guy, of course, and but I mean that works out well. I mean, he and Meatloaf are.
That's a great mashup. Oh my god.
But I mean, but also in his vocal. Not just because he's a big guy, but also the way he sings. It kind of sounds a bit like Meat. And he and Meatloaf, they're buddies. They did the Tenacious D movie, and Jack sang on one of Meatloaf's records as well.
Yeah,
Like a Rose.
Yeah, Like a Rose. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. That's not the worst comparison.
Yeah.
No,
but
I don't think it's the worst.
It's brilliant. I didn't think of it.
I think
it is spot on, absolutely, and even with the hair and everything too, he does look like a young Meatloaf at times.
Next biopic of Meatloaf.
Sure, right, yeah, he could do it. But yeah, Lawrence's cape kind of reminds me of like Rick Wakeman from Yes, and he has like the crazy spiky hair, like how he was able to pull that off. Like he's totally wearing a wig. Freddie looks, I'm trying to think, he looks a bit like. Almost like Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols.
Nice. That makes sense. I mean, he was like
a mixture of that and like maybe Adrian Young from No Doubt.
Yeah, well, when you think about it, they really styled them all based
just sort of a generic like punk rock spiky hair kind of.
Yeah, like sort of based on like what he assigned them and what they ended up gravitating towards.
Exactly.
But it mixed in with the school uniforms as well, which was a nice touch. Clever alteration of the uniforms, and even though Jack Black isn't really playing that particular solo, like that solo sounds really great.
Yeah.
I forget who actually recorded that part. It wasn't the kid. It wasn't Joey.
Oh, he could have.
But once they get to the part in the song where Tamika sort of takes her lead vocal, like her bit in the song, you could see like her parents in the crowd being like blown away, and it was a tear-jerking moment. You could see they were kind of choking up a little bit. Very sweet. And Dewey and Tamika sort of had a back and forth that reminded me a lot of like Mick Jagger and Tina Turner at Live Aid.
Nice.
Doing State of Shock. Mm-hmm. The kick some ass line is that's like the only cursing and profanity in the movie. Well, I think Dewey does say ass earlier in the movie.
Yeah,
but that's about it.
Yeah.
Getting that PG-13 rating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But like I said, still very family-friendly movie. Mm-hmm. Lawrence's keyboard solo is kind of funny.
Yeah. No, I was just saying the kick some ass line. That's like it. Like that's the whole like.
Yeah. Everybody's like.
If you didn't enjoy everything else in this movie, if you're one of those critics that's like, that's not realistic. Like that part has got to like melt some of that facade down a little bit.
Of course, yeah. You're hearing the girls sing it's adorable.
It's kind of like in the movie Real Steel, like when Adam first does that uppercut of Zeus.
I haven't seen Real Steel, but I believe you.
Yes, it's basically Rocky with robots, so you have to see it.
Right. Yeah, Hugh Jackman. I've heard of it, never seen it though. But Lawrence's keyboard solo is kind of funny, where he's like doing the point and trying to do the moves, and Zach's solo at the end, like the outro solo, is just outstanding. Like even at that age, Joey was he was a hell of a player.
Yeah.
I like how they have the bit where Zach's dad and Lawrence's dad kind of complement each other's kids.
Yeah. Your son is very skilled.
Yeah.
So exactly how they would word it.
Yeah, it was kind of a nice moment. And at the end, Dewey finally nails that stage dive.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And the crowd goes nuts as the song ends, and the parents are blown away. And,
full circle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and Roz makes her way backstage after the song and really congratulates the kids. And
but
I mean, she's
getting stopped.
Right.
Yeah.
Getting
it's like,
stopped by security.
I'm the principal of the band school. I'm like, oh, all right.
Oh, right on.
Go ahead.
Right on.
That checks out. Go ahead. So she's furious that the kids left school, of course, but she just loves the performance. Like she's not that mad about it.
Right. Well, the performance is so good that it dropped all the lawsuits.
All the pretense, yeah.
Well, what did Jack Black say? He's like, "Are you mad or whatever?" She's like, "I'm
If
furious."
you're not mad, I'm furious.
Like, oh yeah, of course, but still, no, you guys did a great job.
Yeah, all the kidnapping, fraud, Grand Theft Auto, and Grand Theft Sandwich all went out the window.
You could add to the list of crimes being committed here. But yeah, I mean, it's a funny moment. It's obviously she loved the performance, and then I thought it was funny where the people, the promoters, were asking backstage like, who were they? And then Summer in full business attire approaches little Summer just walks right up and and just introduces herself, just completely confident doing what she's doing, and yeah. So no vacancies bass player and the drummer are blown away, and they congratulate Zach and Freddie. And I even wrote this down in my notes, Joey, that the bass player Neil reminds me of our buddy Steven.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
and once again,
especially in that scene, he has like sort of the same voice as, talks the same way as Steve does.
Yeah, and like once again, he was still like kind of like on Dewey's side a little bit. He was still like cheering on Dewey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like the friend who like kind of had no choice but to kick out the guy. Cause,
it was sort of an awkward moment there. But yeah, and then you have the bit with Spider and kind of flirting with Roz and sort of a hilarious, funny little back and forth exchange.
That's hot. What? Are you warm?
Yeah, you can tell it's just Joan just trying to improvise and play with it a little bit. So it's funny.
Mm.
Joan, you could have gotten some.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
She could have gotten tangled in Spider's web there. And yeah.
Like that Superstar movie.
Right.
With the ugly girl getting the hottest guy in school, kind of.
Of course, yeah, Mary Catherine Gallagher, the whole thing. So back on stage, the director, I guess the promoter / MC, whatever he is, he comes out to announce the winner, and he announces that no vacancy is won.
Mm-hmm.
So Dewey is pissed about this, and some of the crowd boos.
The whole crowd boos. With
I think except for like one guy who's like really into no vacancy. It's like no vacancy. Like he's super into it. Like the one guy in the crowd. Thought that was funny.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the crowd boos, and like Ned and the parents, they start booing. It's like, School of Rock should have won, and the grand prize is $25,000.
It's $20,000.
Like, holy. Was it 20,000?
I literally was just watching it, and I kept took a note of it.
On.
So.
I stand corrected. 20,000. Still a huge prize. That's amazing. That's a hell of a prize.
Yeah.
I mean, well, to the parents, to the musicians, yes. To the parents, that's like, that's pretty much a year's tuition.
Right.
Still, I mean, no,
you're absolutely right.
Yeah, by any standard, that's a lot to win for a music contest.
Oh, definitely.
But when I don't think there's enough people in that venue to like even get that much revenue.
I
remember.
Is that all from the gate? Like,
Jack, it wasn't a battle of the bands, but it was like a talent show in Kennett at Anseby Nixon Park, and I won second place. It was like $50.
Here's a gift card to the music store.
Yeah, that's a lot of money compared to that.
Good times, man. So, but the kids don't really mind. They're not bothered that they didn't win. They're happy with the show they played, and the crowd starts to cheer for School of Rock, demanding that they play one more song. And so the kids all go back, and all of them, not just the kids in the band, but like all the kids in the class go.
Oh, it's just band. Okay, everyone go.
Yeah. And I love how Gordon just still has to bust out another dance move on stage. Like this kid just had so much energy. And so they play Long Way to the Top by AC/DC as the scene sort of fades out. And, we sort of get to the end. We cut to a scene where Summer's mom is dropping her off at Ned and Dewey's new School of Rock after school program, which I think is at their apartment.
Yep.
It's at their apartment. Where
That's
it looks
a little
like
questionable.
I mean, my wife does tutoring out of our house, so it's not
not that far fetched.
Yeah,
not
so
that far-fetched, but
for two guys,
I trust your wife more than probably Dewey.
Yeah, I mean, I think most parents would trust her over like two single guys.
Yeah. If you did it like at the school, then yes, I totally understand that. But whatever. Yeah. I digress.
But anyway, so they have a new after-school program set up. Summer is on a cell phone negotiating some sort of business deal as she's walking in. Who knows what she's wheeling and dealing at this point. But so she's turning into basically a little Sharon Osbourne.
Right.
And so the band is playing Long Way to the Top as the credits start to roll. And we cut to sort of a cute scene of like Ned showing some like really tiny kids, like really little kids, how to play some guitar chords before they cut back to the band as they play through the credits. And Marta actually breaks the fourth wall at one point as she sings "The movie's almost over," and
the movie is over, but we're still on screen.
Supposedly she ad-libbed that line in that moment. Like she wasn't supposed to do that, but they just went with it. And so you could see just, Jack is just making the kids laugh at this point, and they're just having fun. And
yep.
And it was cool, and that was the end of the movie. So, yeah, man, that was a fun movie. You know, it's one of those, it's a feel good movie you could watch with, with the family, and it's a good date movie as well.
It's
I
something
imagine.
I forgot about, but then like I put it on today, and then Amber sat down next to me. She's like, "Oh yeah, this movie." She's like, "This is great." And then we were both watching it, and we're like, every time there was a Jack Black moment, like where he was doing something, some kind of physical comedy, like we would both laugh at it.
Yeah, just Jack being Jack.
So I definitely agree with you on that. Like it definitely, like I forget about it, but once I watched it again, and I'm like, I liked it. I really liked the movie. So
yeah, it's great, and it was successful. Like I said, like they made a Broadway play based on it.
Yep.
There was there was a series on Nickelodeon for a hot minute there.
Yeah.
Andrew Lloyd Webber bought the rights to it.
Yeah, he wrote the musical, and another interesting thing is there's a company called School of Rock, and it basically does the after school.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was actually just gonna say that because they just opened up one right near Kennan and Hockessin.
Nice.
If anybody's familiar with Hockessin, Delaware.
Well, yeah, a shout out to Hockessin, Delaware, but it's but not like there are legitimately schools of rock that have opened like as like music classes and after school programs and whatnot. Like it became a thing because of this movie.
Yeah,
I think.
And then you go above that too, and you have that. You have like the rock and roll camp too. Where you can have those experiences with musicians and.
I mean, I think those existed before this movie, but certainly this movie definitely like made it more of a thing, especially for young kids who probably watched this, like kids like younger than us at the time, who would have watched it and be like, "Oh, that's cool," and maybe that was their way of learning about some of the music.
Yeah, no, going through I think high school, I went to several things called Ultimate Guitar Workshops, and it was a big part of how I learned to get as good at guitar as I became in high school.
Gabe, how old were you in 2003? Because you're a couple years younger than us, I think.
Yeah, I was 2003. I was 16.
Okay, like we would have been like 18, 19.
I was probably about like 19 then. Yeah.
Yeah. So like we were already in college at this point, but like even watching it now, in our 30s, me and Joey, we have kids, so it's like you kind of watch it with like sort of a different lens and just sort of appreciating what the kids were and just kind of watch it differently as a parent now.
Right.
It hits a little bit differently at this age, but it's still cool to revisit it. And so Gabe, I want to thank you for suggesting this. This was a lot of fun to revisit.
Yes.
Yeah, this was definitely...
the lyrics, I just wanted to say the lyrics that they sing towards the end. And the movie is over, the movie's really over, but we're still on screen. Everybody's rocking, and we came from Horace Green.
Yeah.
We came from Horace Green.
Well, what was that?
That was just.
I understood it.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, but the girl who played Marta, I think she had done some other stuff after that. Like she had done, she was in that movie Across the Universe in 2007, like the Beatles musical.
Yeah, no, so it's
Yeah, so I mean, so some of these kids like went on to do some stuff, and like not all of them were professional actors. Yeah, but I mean, it is kind of sad though. The last I heard about Joey Gatos, who played Zach, one of the main kids, I think he got into a little bit of legal trouble recently.
Yeah,
like,
I read a little bit about that.
A couple years ago, I think he had got arrested for like shoplifting or something. I think he's like stole a guitar or something like that.
Well,
it was something to that effect. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak out of turn here, but like he got into a little bit of trouble. I don't know what his status is right now, but hopefully he's had a good life since then, and the same thing with all these kids. But I know that like since then they did like a 10-year reunion one time that I think Rolling Stone did a piece on it, and like Extra it went they posted some stuff on YouTube, and I know some of like shows like Extra they covered that as well, where it's like they got together and like played the songs again, and so that's pretty cool to hear. Yeah, I'm sure there was talk about a sequel for a while, but I feel like just too much time has passed.
Yeah, I was reading that on Wikipedia. They were just like they wanted to do it, but then it just didn't happen. So.
Yeah, and it probably would have been tough to get all the kids back for that movie, but I mean, theoretically I could see if they wanted to do it where it's like if Dewey is still teaching a new class, if they wanted to have the original kids make like some cameos, because I mean they're all grown up now, but
I think it's better just to be a standalone movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think you really need to revisit it. I mean, and the movie holds up. Like it's not particularly dated.
Yeah.
That was one of my questions I wrote down in my notes. I was like, do you feel that this movie still holds up today as it did back in 2003?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you probably have to ask, like, it'd be interesting to see like some younger kids watching it today. I mean, older than our kids, Joey. I mean, because our kids are still little, but like, like I've got a niece who's around like 8, turning 9, so it's like I wonder how she would like it. I mean, I'd be interested to hear her reaction to it.
Yeah, I think the only thing that would be somewhat dated would be the like if it was made today, the kids would be saying like, what kind of music do you like? Like,
oh yeah, well I mean yeah, obviously they would be saying whatever's going on now. Like,
that makes sense.
Or like Billie Eilish or
Lady
Kelly. Gaga or whatever or whoever's whatever kids are listening to now. That's a whole other topic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean,
Kelly.
Yeah, I mean that and like maybe the cell phones and some of the technology dated a little bit, but I mean otherwise it's not like.
Yeah, I think it holds up pretty well. The only reason I say that is because Amber and I were kind of like watching. We were thinking about movies that didn't hold up as well. We watched Can't Hardly Wait.
Right.
Remember that movie?
Yeah,
I remembered it. I've seen clips of it. I haven't seen it all the way through though. I know they've parodied it in like Not Another Teen Movie and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I know Ethan Embry is in it. It's just that's one of those movies where I haven't seen it all the way through.
It
Can't Hardly Wait was very much of its time.
Exactly. It definitely.
Especially a lot of especially a lot of the teen movies. You know.
It was just funny, like to think about that, but
yeah.
Off topic, and you probably let this out. Jack, have you seen The Cable Guy? Have both of you seen it?
I've never seen it
in the theaters one time.
Yeah, like I watched it again recently. It really holds up. Like, despite the technology is way dated, but like the messages that it says are even more prescient. And to bring it back to School of Rock and Tenacious D, Kyle Gass has a very, very, very short little cameo in that movie.
Wait, I thought Jack was in that movie, or was it Kyle?
Jack Black
both
plays
of them
a
are
supporting role, but Kyle Gass plays a guy who's.
I mean, I was like, we could go into a few things. I was like, as we were just talking, I'm like, we could do like a podcast about the Truman Show, and also Across the Universe.
Yeah.
I think that would be a really good one.
I mean, that was sort of a weird, trippy movie. And,
it was weird. Yes.
Yeah. And actually, like, it's I don't want to get into too much of a tangent, but like, Christina, my wife, like, she wasn't really all that familiar with the music of the Beatles. And that movie, she saw it and she didn't really like it. And that kind of soured her on the Beatles for a little bit.
Right.
Even kind of to this day, I'm still trying to introduce her to a little bit more of it, and she and I did go to see Paul McCartney in concert in Orlando a couple years back, which was great.
$1,000 ticket, I think is.
She's still not totally sold on a lot of the Beatles stuff because she didn't really grow up with it. Her dad loves it, but
that was one of the best. That was the best concert I ever went to was Paul McCartney.
Yeah, amazing, and So, but I'm still trying to win her over a little bit with some of the Beatles stuff, but it's a tough battle. But
that's fine because I actually like Across the Universe's version of Blackbird better than the original.
Yeah, there's a few songs I like that definitely hold up within that movie. Though I'm not the biggest fan of Bono's "I Am the Walrus,"
right?
But I've just seen a face. I think that's a really great version. Yeah. Even Strawberry Fields Forever isn't bad. It's not my favorite version, but I think it holds up pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the movie in a while, but I remember like when they did Dear Prudence. I thought that was really
that was good as well.
Yeah.
Well, that's a whole other podcast.
So. Exactly, but I mean, Yeah, I mean, obviously this was like the first big thing where we saw Miranda Cosgrove in, and she's all grown up now. I hear she's gonna do like an iCarly movie, maybe.
Oh, really?
I think she's trying to. I think she's trying to revisit that. I mean,
I feel like everybody's revisiting, like.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it's gotta be tough. Like if you're a child star, especially now that she's an adult, she's probably trying to get back into it a little bit. It's probably the only way that she can, get like a big movie made right now. She's probably thinking like, all right, well, if I do this, maybe this will lead to other roles, and who knows?
And it did. I mean, especially in so.
I just want to add this one more thing. Like I said, you can edit this out, but right before we were doing the podcast, I was watching this movie that Amber put on called Moxie, which is on Netflix. Did you have you heard of that?
I'm not familiar.
Amy Poehler's in it, but basically it's like kind of like this high school, like this. It's like Amy Poehler's like she was like in the 90s, like a riot girl, like making zines and like stuff like that, and like her daughter like kind of found out this stuff, and there's like stuff going on in the school, like with like guys like being whatever, and like I don't know, she creates a zine or whatever, and like she first gets introduced to like Bikini Kill, like and like all these bands and stuff, and like the music's really good in this movie. We started watching and we're like an hour into it, and it's actually pretty cool.
What's it called again?
It's called the Moxie, or it's called Moxie, I think.
Moxie. All right.
Moxie, yeah.
Is it a comedy or?
It's kind of like a little bit. There's some comedy because, like I said, Amy Poehler's in it.
Yeah.
But then like it's like her mom back in the 90s was like all about like revolution and like fighting the system, and
but now she's grown up and a parent and whatnot.
Yeah, but the daughter now is like seeing all these kind of injustices in high school, like bullying, like stuff like that. So she decides to create a zine, and it's kind of cool. Like she shows like, I guess someone said something, and it was like a lyric from Bikini Kill's one of their songs, and like she looked it up, and like she started getting into it, and like I said, like the music was really cool. Like she pulls out like the mom suitcase, and it's like Descendants like stickers, like all these punk rock stickers, and that speaks to me because that's me. So
that's your stuff, man.
But yeah, you might like it.
Yeah, I did a little more research on Miranda Cosgrove. She was also on Drake and Josh, that show on Nickelodeon.
Oh yeah, she was the younger sister, right?
Yeah, that was her real breakout role, I think.
And more recently, she did the voiceover work for one of the little girls in the Despicable Me movies.
Yeah, the older.
She was
sister.
like the oldest sister.
Oh, okay.
And the iCarly thing, it's not a movie. It's going to be a new show on Paramount Plus, like a sequel series.
That's what I was wondering too, if this will be on Paramount Plus, because you said it was a part of Paramount.
Yet another streaming app.
Because right now, it's like you said, I watched it on HBO Max, so it's like, is it going to go over?
And of course she had a pop record out, a little while back. But yeah, I mean, and obviously, Joan Cusack, she's done a ton of things. I mean, she's Jessie from Toy Story, for God's sake. Among many other things. And
she's a legend. So I mean, all of them.
Yeah, and Sarah Silverman was still relatively new at this time.
Oh yeah, it was the first time I had ever heard of her, which is.
No, what is she? She's been in stuff earlier than this.
Well, yeah.
She was a stand-up comedian. That was her sort of claim to fame.
I'm looking this up.
She was on Saturday Night Live in the mid-90s as well.
Right.
Yeah, very.
Like when she was very young.
Yeah, she was a writer, and she was on for a season. I think she got fired from SNL.
Right, but she still wasn't like a big name. Like she was like just starting to be like a big deal at this point. You know what I mean?
Okay, so let's see. No, you're okay.
That's what I mean.
No, you are right. This is Wikipedia, but you are right, because literally School Rock is the second film that she was in. And the one previous was Who's the Caboose? And I have no idea what that movie is.
Good question. But yeah. So, I mean, yeah, she was like starting to kind of like really get more of a high profile at this point. even though definitely got cast against type in this one, but she did a good job.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, everything was well casted. I thought the kids did a great job. I mean, like I said, Jack Black is perfect for it, and yeah, I really enjoyed it.
It was an all around feel good movie. So I mean,
exactly, it's fun. It was fun to revisit this. Yeah, so I want to thank you guys for kind of going through this with me. Gabe, I know you're trying to get something new going. Do you have any like new records in the works? I know.
I mean, I'm always writing. I'm just trying to get into a band with people so that I can, flex my writing muscles at the moment.
For sure, man. I'll have to post a link to some of your solo stuff that's out there right now. So. Now, Joey, your podcast, I guess this is Growing Up. That's available on YouTube for now?
Yeah, it's on YouTube right now, and then I also do some other ridiculous stuff which is on the channel.
Is that a Blink-182 reference?
Yes.
Okay.
It sure is, yeah. Like I said, you guys are two massive Blink fans, so I wanted to get you introduced to each other. But this is awesome, man. Thank you, my brothers, for coming and doing this with me.
No problem.
I appreciate it as always. I appreciate you guys listening at home. You could follow me on Twitter and Instagram at jackxconnor. Like me on Facebook, facebook.com/jackconnormusic. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, go back and listen to some of the other podcasts,
hit that notification
some of the reactions.
button.
Exactly. Make sure you get updated as I post something. I've been doing a lot of reaction videos lately as well as the podcast,
which has been pretty cool.
Thank you guys as always for listening. I appreciate it. For Gabe, for Joey, I'm Jack Connor. This has been the Phoenix Report. Rock on and always stick it to the man.
Nice.